Chapter 1776. At that time, Tianheng and the other half-kings were all dumbfounded. Just now they laughed at Saint Child Xuezhan, saying that he was just an empty shell. But now they were all horrified. I've been fighting with a clone for a few days? How strong would this person be if his real body was here? But now, the problem was, the clone had been fighting here for several days. What was Xuezhan's real body doing? Although Tianheng was horrified, he thought to himself, since a clone has been fighting for several days, it means that his real body must have something to do and couldn't come back. Tianheng knew that many people had gone to the dangerous place. He guessed that Saint Child Xuezhan's real body might have secretly participated in it. So, he hadn't come out yet. At that moment, Tianheng made up his mind and immediately shouted, "Hatred heaven, now the arrow is already on the bowstring. While Xuezhan's real body is not here, quickly take down Bingxue Chuling. We can't delay." Hatred heaven's eyes flickered. This hatred has already been formed. Even if I escape now, I will still have a great hatred in the future. When we meet, it will be a life and death battle. Bingxue Chuling was only one person. Could he stop so many half-king tier warriors? Okay, Hatred Heaven responded and spared no effort to break out. Among the 5 corpses, the hunter hid and the armorist stirred the void. Tianheng shouted, "Hurry up, kill Bingxue Chuling first." Bingxue Chuling had just broken through to the half-king level not long ago. Although her combat power was extraordinary, she couldn't resist so many people. If Han Fei's clone was destroyed, she would have no chance to escape. She thought to herself, anyway, I only have a few hundred years to live. But I met Han Fei and my luck changed. Now, I will definitely not let Hatred Heaven get my body and refine it into a corpse puppet. She was ready to self-destruct at any time. Even if I die this time, I will take a few people with me. Puff, just when Bingxue Chuling was ready to fight with all her strength, suddenly, the void shook. 2 figures fell from the void. One of them was the corpse of a hunter who hated the heavens. But at this moment, it had been chopped into 17 or 18 pieces. The other figure was dressed in white and wore a tall hat. His face was pale, and he held 2 blades in his hands as he stood in the air. What? Hatred Heaven was shocked. Where did this hunter come from? On the other side, Tianheng sensed something. He possessed the lava tortoise and a shield appeared on his body. Beside him, a half-monarch realm powerhouse was sliced into 2 by a void crack that suddenly appeared. Hiss, Tianheng hurriedly retreated. At this time, a voice sounded leisurely, "Malicious ghosts reap souls, impermanence claim lives, the land where the king perished, the valley of the living dead, the black and white impermanence once again descend upon the sea. Money opens a path, resources buy a life. Transactions on the spot, no credit." The next moment, Han Fei appeared in front of Bingxue Chuling's big ship. Han Fei said, "I'm Black Ghost Fan Dadong. I can deal with them with 1 spiritual stone. Pay up." Bingxue Chuling, Tianheng, Hatred Heaven. When Bingxue Chuling heard the name Fan Dadong, she immediately breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't know how Han Fei became a fat man. Isn't Han Fei's image very good? However, since Han Fei was here, she was safe. And Tianheng and the others were naturally in danger. Tianheng immediately shouted, "Are you Xuezhan?" Han Fei turned his head in shock. "How did you know?" Tianheng was speechless. "Fuck, do you think we're fools? You want to buy the lives of all of us with a mere top-grade spirit stone? Or did you take the initiative to make a deal? Who are you insulting?" But Han Fei immediately smiled and said, "Since you've seen through my identity, I can't let you go. Go to hell." Han Fei's strength reached the peak, and the 2 half-monarchs stepped forward, intending to fight. However, to their surprise, Tianheng retreated and intended to escape. However, Han Fei had already arrived. How could Tianheng escape so easily? A phantom appeared out of thin air and blocked in front of Tianheng. Tianheng was shocked. "It's really you?" "Impossible, this is the power of a king's projection. You're just a half-monarch. How can you have such strength?" However, when Tianheng saw Han Fei blow up the 2 half-monarchs with 2 punches, he was stunned and swallowed subconsciously. He looked horrified and his eyes were full of horror. You are a king? Han Fei clenched his spear and launched a heavenly gate attack, smirking. Congratulations, you guessed wrong. Clanch, he had to admit that those who could be regarded as a king candidate were indeed strong. Tian Heng's defense was so strong that Han Fei's strike as a king failed to break it. Of course, it didn't mean that Tian Heng was fine. He was stabbed by Han Fei's spear, bleeding from all 7 orifices. Tian Heng shouted, "Brother Xuezhan, it's a misunderstanding. The feud between our Golden Crow Heaven and the Snow God's Temple is over. You don't want to make things worse, do you?" However, Han Fei held the embroidery needle and launched another violent strike. Clang, crack. After the second strike, Tian Heng's turtle armor was full of cracks. Han Fei smiled and said, "What does it have to do with me? I'm not from the Snow God's Temple." Tian Heng? Bam! After 3 Heavenly Gates attacks, Han Fei finally pierced through Tian Heng's armor. For those who relied on defense, once their defenses were broken, the consequences could be imagined. In Tian Heng's panic, Han Fei directly killed him with his spear. Han Fei used the void lines to control his soul. Anyway, he could replenish a lot of soul power, so he couldn't let it go. However, to Han Fei's surprise, when he buckled Tian Heng with the void lines, he saw a trace of determination and ferocity in Tian Heng's eyes. Han Fei immediately took back the void lines, and immediately afterward, Tian Heng exploded into a dazzling and blazing ball of light. The temperature of this ball of light was so high that Han Fei's flesh and blood were burned into flying ashes in an instant. Han Fei! Xia Shaochan was shocked and wanted to go forward to save him. However, the explosion was too fierce, and Master Hexagon directly activated the 6-gate formation to block Xia Shaochan. Bingxue Chuling didn't dare to neglect. With a flash between her eyebrows, the Ice Sea Locust created an extremely cold ice shield in front of her. Even so, after the scorching energy passed, most of the ice shield collapsed. The battle suit on Bingxue Chuling was incinerated. And this was the best time for Hatred Heaven to escape. However, the scorching fire energy swept across the area within 1,000 kilometers. Hatred Heaven blocked it with the giant chain shield of the armorist puppet. Of course, he didn't have the 6-gate formation or the Ice Sea Leech, so he was injured immediately. His entire back was almost burned into nothingness, and his soul was seriously injured. However, because Hatred Heaven was the furthest away from him, after sacrificing the armorist, he really ran away. At this moment, Hatred Heaven was extremely shocked. Holy Child Xuezhan, Avenger Han Fei? These 2 people are actually the same person? What if this matter is exposed? Even the Snow Girl couldn't explain it. That would completely arouse the hostility of the Golden Crow Heaven and even the Grand Pure One and the Wuji Heaven to the Snow God's Temple. Hatred Heaven only thought, as long as I can get out, the Snow God's Temple will be finished. I can even use this as an excuse to blackmail them. At that time, even if I want the sea-quelling bizarre treasure, the Snow Girl will have to give it to me. However, just as Hatred Heaven thought that he had run for a distance, he saw a figure standing in front of him. "Where are you going to run to? Wow, you're not dead?" Hatred Heaven was horrified. What the fuck is this? That's the sky-burning divine technique of the Golden Crow Heaven. He could only use it once before he died. No one in the same realm could resist it at all. How can this guy create a projection clone? Could it be that he really was a king tier? When the explosion was over, Bingxue Chuling and Xia Shaochan saw a golden skeleton standing in midair. The golden skeleton's whole body was flowing with light, extremely smooth, and its bones were as smooth as a mirror. The hexagon starfish's eyes widened. If this was a dead skeleton, he would definitely put it in his hexagon starfish's collection. His body of golden bones was simply too magnificent. Xia Shaochan scolded angrily, "Asshole, can you not do these dangerous things next time?" Han Fei sweated. Hey, I know At that time, the Apocalypse divine technique descended, and under the cover of the pillar of holy light, a dense and smooth mist flowed back in the void within 1,000 kilometers. And Han Fei's flesh and blood were rapidly recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a dozen minutes, Han Fei had basically recovered. As soon as the battle suit was put on, his facial features appeared, and in another 3 or 5 minutes, he returned to normal. At this time, Hatred Heaven still tried to quickly defeat Han Fei's projection clone. However, he knew it was futile. This clone could block Tianheng and the others for a full 2 days. 2 of his 5 semi-king puppets had been killed, but at this moment, he hadn't trapped Han Fei's clone yet. However, Hatred Heaven didn't beg for mercy, because he knew that he had heard something he shouldn't have heard, and there was no room for him to change his mind. Immediately, Hatred Heaven controlled the 2 puppets to retreat, and the Spirit Gatherer blew himself up. He thought to himself, I can't blow up your body, but can't I even hinder your clone for a moment? However, the next moment, something that made him desperate happened. Just as he was about to run, he saw another projection clone appear behind him. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan and Bingxue Chuling were already free, and Han Fei didn't need to do anything at all. Hatred Heaven was stunned by the roar of the giant arowana. Before Bingxue Chuling had time to take action, Xia Xiaochan's gorgeous explosive attack quickly smashed Hatred Heaven. Even if he took out a few more puppets at the peak level of the venerable level, none of them could keep up with Xia Xiaochan's pace. When Xia Xiaochan returned with a sun moon shell in her hand, there were still 7 or 8 ownerless puppets at the peak level of the venerable level. Han Fei cast his fishing hook. They should be worth some money. Later, I'll go to the Martial Emperor's city to sell them. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1777. The moment Han Fei appeared, Bingxue Chuling knew that she was saved. Otherwise, if she had to deal with the siege of so many experts alone, even if she tried her best, she could only kill 1 or 2 of them. However, what shocked Bingxue Chuling was that who was this woman? Han Fei had changed his appearance into a fatty, and the woman probably didn't use her real face. Moreover, judging from the rhythm of the battle just now, it was simply too fast, so fast that he couldn't even react in time. Bingxue Chuling only wondered if the woman used the 6 Gates Heaven defense formation just now. Xia Xiaochan exposed the existence of the hexagon starfish when she was with the mermaid pirates. There was only one in the entire chaotic ocean, and there was no second one. Bingxue Chuling couldn't help but suspect that this woman was not a human but a mermaid. Of course, considering the relationship between Han Fei and the Snow God's temple, Bingxue Chuling certainly wouldn't mention this. Bingxue Chuling bowed slightly and said, "Thank you for saving me, Celestial Master. I'm very grateful." At this moment, Xia Xiaochan looked at Bingxue Chuling curiously. Although she was standing next to Han Fei obediently, her fingers had already reached for Han Fei's waist. Han Fei smiled and said calmly, "I made an agreement with the Snow Girl. Don't worry about it. A few days ago, I was delayed and was trapped in the Soul Burial Valley. What's going on in the outside world?" Soul Burial Valley? Bingxue Chuling saw that Han Fei kept his distance from her, which must be because of this girl. So, she replied with the demeanor of a holy virgin, "Has the Soul Burial Valley been explored?" Han Fei nodded. Bingxue Chuling said, "If the Soul Burial Valley has been explored, then of the 3 perilous places, only the Undersea Palace hasn't been explored. During the 10 days you were away, the Demonic Plant Cave, another perilous place, was also explored. Many Half-King Realm experts died. It said that a sea-quelling bizarre treasure, an ancient major seed, and hundreds of keys to the Imperial Palace were found. 3 of the 5-star perilous places collapsed, namely the City of the Dead, the Sound Tide Cave, and the Sand Sea. As for the rest, I'm not too sure. Where did we go? Does your doppelganger have any memories?" Han Fei nodded. In these 10 days, Bingxue Chuling and her clone had explored 2 5-star danger zones. As for when he met Tianheng and the others, he was chased after coming out of the 2nd danger zone, and he had been fighting with them until now. She couldn't be blamed. She was the saintess, but the others were not weak either. His main body wasn't here, but his half-monarch avatar was here. He might not be able to win against those people. If Bingxue Chuling had met people from Sealing God's Heaven while he was not around, she would have been dead by now. But now, Han Fei certainly wouldn't stay here for Bingxue Chuling. Han Fei opened the map and secretly turned the nautical panorama. After a while, Han Fei's projection landed on Bingxue Chuling's ship. Chu Yang and Qin Yu are in the undersea fire cave. Together with my avatar, the four of us will be able to intimidate our enemies. Then he took out a jade slip, drew with his finger for a long time, and imprinted a teleportation array on it. Han Fei threw the jade slip to his projection and said, "Once there's an unavoidable danger, buy me 5 seconds, and I'll be there. If I'm in a secret realm, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for me to arrive. By the way, I've prepared the keys that the Snow God's temple needs. It's safer to keep them with me. When I leave, I'll find you and give you these keys." Bingxue Chuling secretly sighed. Han Fei's plan was very good. In terms of the deal, Han Fei had made a deal. He cured her disease and helped the Snow God's temple get what it deserved. He also established a preliminary friendly relationship with the Snow God's temple. That was enough. Now that Han Fei obviously had a plan, she couldn't ask him to stay. Bingxue Chuling immediately bowed and said, "Whatever you want, immortal master. Although I'm not as strong as you, with Chu Yang and Qin Yu, we won't be afraid of anyone." Han Fei nodded slightly. "Okay, I'll go first." After a while, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan lay comfortably on the sea. Xia Xiaochan narrowed her eyes and said, "What a beautiful girl. Who is she?" Han Fei grinned and said, "Hi. The Holy Lady of the Snow God's temple. I had an agreement with the Snow Lady, the Palace Master. She helped me participate in the trial of the land of King Grave, and I helped her take care of the heavenly talents of the Snow God's temple. I owe her 20 keys to the Imperial Palace. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to come to the land of King Grave alone." "Humph, you're honest. Hey, did you know that I was going to participate in the trial of the land of King Grave?" After a pause, Xia Xiaochan immediately understood. "Wu, you want to board the Glass Sky's ship and go to the Glass Sky, right?" Han Fei shrugged and thought, "You've already guessed it. Why are you still asking?" Xia Xiaochan thought for a while and said, "It's said that there are more women than men in the Glass Sky, and the ratio of men to women is about 10:1. Are you going to become a woman?" Han Fei's eyelids twitched. "Where did you hear this news? Is it accurate?" Xia Xiaochan said, "I'm very concerned about the chaotic Azure Sea. I've read almost all the historical materials that can be read. Do you think it's accurate?" When Han Fei was about to speak, Xia Xiaochan stepped on the deck with one hand on her waist and said, "So, in the Glass Sky, you will be my little follower. In this way, it's foolproof. No one will doubt you. Come on, little follower, let's rehearse first." "Hey," a weird smile appeared on Han Fei's face. "Little follower, right? You want me to be your little follower?" Smack Master Hexagon Starfish was immediately thrown out. Rolling its big eyes, it mumbled, "Human beings. Why are you always immersed in this kind of low-level desire? We starfish are different. What we pursue is... What are you pursuing?" Before the Hexagon Starfish finished speaking, the illusion of mountains and rivers appeared and Master Hexagon Starfish was put in. At this point, no one disturbed Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan's private world anymore. Half a day later, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were cooking a huge piece of fish. This fish couldn't be underestimated. This was the king's meat carefully prepared by Xia Xiaochan. In the Hexagon Starfish's door, there was a mountain of it. This kind of meat was of great use to Han Fei now and could help him cultivate. However, at this moment, Han Fei didn't do it for cultivation, but to help Xia Xiaochan recognize him. The illusion of mountains and rivers appeared, and then he saw Xiao Sei, the tree spirit, Master Hexagon Starfish, and the old turtle who had been cultivating in Forge the Universe. As soon as this group of people came out, Xia Xiaochan was stunned. "Wait, how many people are in your portable world?" Han Fei said, "They're all here." The tree spirit and the other 4 only felt fear at this moment, because they felt that the meat in the pot in front of Han Fei had a suppressive effect on them. The old turtle said leisurely, "This king's meat is of great benefit to me." Xiao Sei was shocked. "King's meat?" Nian looked at Xia Xiaochan curiously. "Brother, who is this beautiful sister?" Han Fei grinned and said, This is your sister-in-law. You can call her sister-in-law. Nian said, hello, sister-in-law. Brother, what does sister-in-law mean? Han Fei said, brother's wife. Xia Xiaochan spat. Han Fei had told her about little time, so she wasn't surprised. But he didn't tell Xiao Sei and the others. Han Fei introduced them to Xia Xiaochan. Xiao Sei, Thiena's guard. Xiao Sei didn't know Xia Xiaochan's identity, but he knew her relationship with Han Fei, so he bowed slightly. Han Fei pointed at the tree spirit and the others and said, Tree spirit, Earth 9, Fire Spark, Water Luster, Punishing Saber, they are all legendary creatures. The Punishing Saber greeted, Greetings, Master. Xia Xiaochan blushed. I've already called you that. Can't you give me a gift? Immediately, Xia Xiaochan dragged the hexagon starfish over and said, Big starfish, pay up. The hexagon starfish's big eyes almost constricted. Later, Xia Xiaochan gave each of the tree spirit and the others a realm-breaking pill. And what Xia Xiaochan gave Nian was an ancient jade, which could block a blow from a king. When Xia Xiaochan looked at the old turtle, Han Fei said, Old Yuan is my old servant, but I don't regard him as an old servant. Old Yuan is very strong and can become a king. Ha! Everyone turned to look at Old Yuan. At this moment, Old Yuan's strength was still at the advanced venerable realm. Cultivating in Han Fei's Forge the Universe was really fast. Besides, the resources needed were just the ultra-quality spiritual stones that Han Fei had accumulated. Han Fei couldn't use these things, nor could the old turtle, but they could help him grow stronger quickly. After such a long time, according to Old Yuan, in about half a year, he would almost reach the peak of the advanced venerable realm. Of course, half a year in Forge the Universe was equivalent to 15 or 16 years. After all, Old Yuan didn't have Han Fei's aptitude. In his words, the cultivation speed of a turtle was not so fast. Han Fei called them out just to let them have some of the king's flesh. But before the meal was served, little time seemed to be drunk and the energy in her body was surging. Xiao Sei's face changed. Not good, little master is going to have a tribulation. Han Fei's face changed slightly. With a flip of his hand, hundreds of fish skin pictures were taken out. Han Fei said, Nian, do you remember what I told you before? If the heavenly tribulation can't be blocked, then block it with a raise. Also, put on your battle suit and take the thunder-trapping whip. Third update. Please vote for me. On the last day of 2020, please give me the monthly vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 1778. Han Fei didn't expect that Nian would start her tribulation just by smelling it. Not only Nian, but Han Fei also underestimated the power of the king's flesh. Earth 9 and Water Luster's auras were also surging. It seemed that they would make a breakthrough soon. Han Fei immediately said, Stay away from me and do it one by one. What if the heavenly tribulation isn't enough? Earth 9 and Water Luster were about to step back and seal their perception, trying not to let themselves touch the king's aura. The Tree Spirit, Punishing Saber, and Fire Seed were special creatures, so they weren't affected by the smell. However, Han Fei estimated that since the king's aura could make Water Luster and Earth 9 react, the Punishing Saber and the others might be able to make a breakthrough too. Of course, they had to stay away and let Nian go through the tribulation first. Nian wasn't stupid. She had long known that she was going to have a tribulation. She had a hunch when she was enrolled in the Snow Wind Dao Academy. However, she didn't want to have a tribulation. So, she didn't have a tribulation. Now the opportunity had come. With a hum, Nian turned into a time dragon carp and rushed out of the boat. In the sky, wind and clouds gathered, and lightning surged and surged. Above the sky, a huge vortex appeared. Han Fei's perception swept over 100,000 kilometers. Although he didn't know if anyone could recognize the time dragon carp. No one was allowed to watch Nian's tribulation except for them. When the tribulation cloud had spread for more than 800 li, the first lightning tribulation came like a girl leaving her boudoir. Boom! Han Fei saw a trace of purple power in the first lightning bolt. Han Fei's face changed slightly, and he looked at the old turtle. Old Yuan, The first lightning bolt was purple. Is Nyen-Er's tribulation stronger than mine? The old turtle nodded. Of course, it's much stronger than yours, even stronger than mine. This shows that not only is her foundation strong enough, but her bloodline level is also very high. According to this situation, the third heavenly tribulation will completely turn into purple lightning. The fourth lightning bolt is almost inevitable. Han Fei's face changed slightly. Is there going to be a fifth or sixth heavenly tribulation? The old turtle said, not all creatures are like the emperor sparrow. Although the light dragon carps were terrifying, they were terrifying because of their innate abilities. Its innate ability was to control time, but it couldn't be said that its bloodline level was comparable to that of the great savage beasts and the ancient divine beasts. In this emperor's opinion, its life level has to be at least one level higher, maybe even 2 levels higher, to be able to pass 6 minor heavenly tribulations. Boom! When a bolt of lightning fell, to Han Fei's surprise, little time did not use the power of time. It opened its mouth wide and swallowed the lightning in one gulp. It was as tyrannical as the arch sparrow. Xiao Sei said, little master has swallowed tens of thousands of years' worth of energy, its body naturally can't take it. However, it could devour them and hide them in its own time fragments, slowly digesting them this way. The first thunderbolt wasn't very powerful to the little master. It can completely rely on the time delay to endure it, so it directly swallowed it. Hidden in a time fragment? Han Fei thought to himself, when little time passes this tribulation, I'll ask her about the magical uses of the great path of time. Xia Shaochan said in surprise. Nyen-Er's first thunderbolt turned purple. Maybe the fourth dark purple thunderbolt can only be blocked by the array? Han Fei couldn't help asking, how do you know the fourth thunderbolt is dark purple? Xia Shaochan said, because I was. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Did Xia Shaochan mean that her bloodline level was actually similar to that of the time dragon carp? According to the hint given by the demon purification pot, he couldn't devour the bloodline of the time dragon carp yet. This meant that the power of the bloodline was at least 1,000,000 times higher than his current level. Han Fei even thought that the bloodline was among the top 1,000,000 of the sea dragon carp clans, or even higher. Xia Xiaochan's mermaid royal bloodline was probably also among them. It was a pity that when he was growing up, his bloodline was limited, and the fourth thunderbolt only turned purple when he passed the tribulation. It was probably because the demon purification pot swallowed the old turtle's power of great path. As a result, the heavenly tribulation almost killed him. Thinking about it now, Han Fei was scared. Boom! The second thunderbolt fell. The thunderbolt was half purple, but a blue halo burst out from Nyen-Er's body. She completely withstood the power of the heavenly tribulation. Han Fei looked at Xiao Sei, and Xiao Sei said, little master hasn't cultivated for tens of thousands of years in order to withstand all the heavenly tribulations. She used the past to consume the power of the heavenly tribulation. The first one was not strong, so little master could bear it alone. However, starting from the second one, little master had to use the time light technique. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan looked at each other in shock. In fact, even the old turtle was dumbfounded. She could use the past to bear and share the power of the heavenly tribulation? What kind of godly operation was this? Since Xiao Sei said so, no matter how powerful the next 2 heavenly tribulations were, they couldn't shake Nyen-Er at all. Sure enough, after a while, the third purple heavenly tribulation completely dissolved in the great path of time around Nyen. At this moment, Nyen-Er's momentum was getting stronger and stronger. The natural advantage of her race allowed Nyen-Er to show great power. The fourth heavenly tribulation turned dark purple, and the heavenly tribulation enveloped Nyen. Nyen-Er didn't open the hundreds of arrays that Han Fei gave her from beginning to end. Xia Shaochan said in surprise, the time dragon carps are really terrifying. I remember that when I transcended the heavenly tribulation, it was in the holy land of the mermaid royal family. I used 3 sea-quelling bizarre treasures to survive the heavenly tribulation. Han Fei thought to himself, that's nothing. When I was transcending the heavenly tribulation, I was crushed into a ball, and I didn't even know where I was. How can I tell you this kind of thing? Before the heavenly tribulation subsided, Nyen turned from a little girl to a budding girl. She looked like she was 12 or 13 years old. She was nearly 1.5 meters tall. Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but be surprised. Can you still grow up after a breakthrough? Before Han Fei could answer, Xiao Sei said, theoretically speaking, Little Master has lived for tens of thousands of years, but her strength and growth have been suppressed. Now, she has appeared in the outside world openly, and her growth speed is astonishing. When Little Master becomes a venerable one day, she will grow a little bigger. Han Fei said helplessly, I don't think so. I suspect she will become a venerable today. Han Fei wasn't talking nonsense. Earlier, Nyen soared to the law enforcer realm in one breath, which was the most exaggerated breakthrough that Han Fei had ever seen. It was unique and shocking. For example, at this moment, although Nyen had successfully transcended the heavenly tribulation, she didn't immediately return to the ship but stood on the sea. The spiritual energy storm around her began to swirl, and all the resources on Nyen were released at the same time. Of course, some of them were Nyen's own resources, and some were pocket money that Han Fei gave to Nyen. After 100 minutes, when Han Fei felt that more than half of the spiritual energy resources had been consumed, he had no choice but to wave his hand, and 10,000 ultra-quality spiritual stones flew towards Nyen. Han Fei didn't know how Nyen's current small body could bear such a huge and continuous spiritual energy baptism. On the ship at this moment, except for Xiao Sei, everyone was in shock. An hour later, when Nyen successfully stabilized her strength as an explorer, a new round of breakthroughs began. Han Fei immediately said, Come on, the hot pot is boiling. Have some. Water luster, Earth 9, you too have some soup. Then Han Fei took out a piece of blood-stained meat, wiped it on the punishing saber, and squeezed 2 drops for the tree spirit and the fire seed. Han Fei thought, I wonder when Nyen's breakthrough will take? You should make breakthroughs on your own. At this moment, Han Fei frowned slightly, and the old turtle reminded him, the 100 demons and the undersea humans are here. You'll have to deal with the peak-level venerable. Han Fei said, it seems that the phenomenon here attracted them. However, since they're here, let's rob them. Han Fei picked up a piece of meat and stuffed it into his mouth. With a thought, the projection of a half-king appeared. Han Fei said, ignore them. Keep eating. It's meaningless to rob a peak-level venerable. Even if you have a few keys to the imperial palace and some resources, you can't compare to a half-king. Just drive them away. As the saying went, cast a long line to catch a big fish. At this moment, Han Fei had already understood that all those below the king level were ants. Han Fei didn't even have the interest to take action against them. 100,000 kilometers away, 3 sea humans and 4 demon race overlords approached them from all directions. One of them said, those who made breakthroughs here must be peak-level venerables. They probably made the breakthrough because they encountered an unstoppable force. Remember, when the time comes, you should first test his strength. If they're weak, kill them immediately. Just as these people's hearts were surging with excitement, thinking that they were about to strike it rich, they suddenly saw a man standing in the air with a staff in his hand. The spear pierced through the void for 1,000 miles. One of the sea demons at the pinnacle of the venerable realm didn't even have the time to react before his body exploded, leaving only bits and pieces behind. Retreat. Retreat now. It's a human half-king. Don't fight. Chapter 1779. Han Fei had gained a lot from this trip to the King Grave. Not to mention that he had obtained enough keys to the imperial palace. The hunting of a large group of demi-kings in the investiture of God's heaven had greatly increased the power of Han Fei's soul. Of course, the biggest gain was that he found Xia Xiaochan. Therefore, although Han Fei looked down on these peak-level venerable sea demons, he didn't know how long it would take for Nyen to make a breakthrough. He might as well continue hunting. If Nyen broke through to the explorer realm, Han Fei estimated that even if he spent the remaining 20 days here, it might not be enough for her to make a breakthrough. Of course, this was just Han Fei's idea. The big demons of the 100 Demon clan had a different idea. The leader said, "It's a human heavenly talent. This person is undoubtedly a demi-king. He shouldn't be afraid of us at all. However, this person just intimidated us and didn't fight us. Obviously, he can't split himself up. I guess someone is breaking through to the demi-king realm in that sea area." The sea human smiled slightly. A peak-level venerable can break through to the demi-king realm, which means that they have encountered a great opportunity. Maybe they have the keys to the imperial palace. Hurry up and find a demi-king realm powerhouse. Take advantage of the fact that they haven't completed their breakthrough to destroy their plans and rob them. Half a day later, after the 5 people, including the punishing saber, were contaminated by the aura of a demi-king, so Han Fei even let them drink a few mouthfuls of soup. At this moment, they were all sitting on the sea, making a breakthrough. Han Fei waited for half a day and even used his spare time to make a pair of sun chairs, a small tea table and 2 cups of drinks, lying down and waiting for people to hunt. Xiao Sei had been standing at the bow of the boat, watching Yen. As for the old turtle, after eating the flesh of a demi-king, Han Fei let him return to forge the universe to continue his cultivation. The old tortoise was one of his trump cards. Anyway, turtles didn't have a strong concept of time, but they needed time to grow. The old turtle had been working very hard. Since he became a venerable, he had grown extremely fast. After so many years in Han Fei's Forge the Universe, it would be strange if he didn't grow as long as he had enough time. After all, he used to be an emperor. Slurp. Han Fei took a sip of his drink and chatted with Xia Xiaochan. "Girl, are you ready to break through to the half-king level in the land of death?" Xia Xiaochan nodded. "Of course. I know what my problem is. Although when I was in the Merfolk royal clan, I didn't lack battle experience. However, he lacked the tempering of a life and death battle. Those were all experiences that were watched over, and the effects weren't as good as this one. Just like the Whale Valley. If it was in the past, no one would have allowed me to go there. But we've already gone, haven't we?" Han Fei frowned and said, "That's true, but not all breakthroughs must be honed in danger." Suddenly, Han Fei glanced to the side, only to hear him say, "Someone is coming, 15 people." Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up. "Let's go." There were demons and sea humans in this group of 15. In terms of individual strength, these 2 clans were much weaker than the Merfolk race. Therefore, they had always been in an alliance. At this moment, among this group of people, the leader was a strong sea humans, who looked very similar to human beings. Beside this person, there were 3 half-king level powerhouses. Among them, 2 were from the 100 Demon clan, one was a shark man, and the other was a shrimp soldier. At this moment, the shark man said, "Master Xinyu, I didn't expect you to come here for such a trivial matter. Didn't they say that all the powerhouses have gone to the last perilous place? Master Xin, why do you have time to participate in such a trivial matter?" Xinyu snorted and said, "The second perilous place has been explored, and the major forces have suffered heavy losses. I heard that something happened in the Soul Burial Valley. It seems that the battle there must be very fierce. At this time, no one dared to act rashly. If someone makes a breakthrough at this time, wouldn't it be telling others that he has obtained a big opportunity? So, I have to come this time." Xinyu had already put it this way. She meant that she was going to swallow the harvest this time, and they were just bystanders. This blatant oath showed how greedy this person was. The half-king level powerhouses of the 100 Demon clan were all silent. The 2 half-king level powerhouses of the 100 Demon clan could only hate the fact that their half-king level powerhouses were all gone. Why couldn't they find them? Otherwise, how could such a good thing fall into Xinyu's hands? About 50,000 kilometers away from the place where Nian had made her breakthrough, Xinyu and the others saw a huge black ship cruising on the surface of the sea. "Master Xinyu, there's a ship." No one knew who said it, but Xinyu slapped the void and sent the man flying 100 meters away. Then she snorted and said, "Who asked you to talk? Can I see it? However, this is the place where the king died. How can a ship sailing openly here be simple?" The truth was just as Xinyu had expected. On the big black ship, 2 people, one in black and one in white, stepped into the air. The man said in a gloomy voice, Malicious ghosts take souls, and impermanents take lives. The place where the king died, the valley of the living dead, the black and white impermanents come to the sea again. Money opens the way and resources buy lives. Transactions on site, no credit allowed. Xin Yu's eyes turned cold. What? How dare two peak stage venerables block my way and rob me? Have you all gone mad? Xin Yu scanned the surroundings several times. After confirming that there shouldn't be anyone or any array here, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Xin Yu thought to himself, even if these two aren't ordinary peak stage venerables, their real combat power has reached the half-king level, but it's only close to that. These two are so arrogant that they dare to block the way and rob me. Maybe they have the power given to them by the king to protect themselves. If that's the case, it'll be a bit difficult. But to think that he could rob them with just this? Isn't that a little too much of a pipe dream? Of course, to be cautious, Xin Yu looked around and said, "The four of you, go and meet these two people." Xin Yu didn't believe that anyone who could come to the place where the king died would be so reckless. Those who could come here were either to become half-king level powerhouses or to explore the imperial palace. The two people in front of him must have a backup plan since they could stop him here. Therefore, he decided to try with a few people first. If he found something wrong, it wouldn't be too late to retreat. He couldn't be fooled by the two of them, right? Then how could he, a heavenly talent of the underwater human race, keep his face? The 100 demons and the underwater human race each sent out 2 peak stage venerables. In the eyes of everyone, the 4 of them were already worthy of Han Fei and Xia Shaochan. However, Xia Shaochan hid in the void and disappeared. Han Fei smiled and said, "Didn't I say it clearly enough? This is a robbery. Pay up. Otherwise I, the black and white ghosts, will kill you." Xin Yu scoffed. "Psycho, you have to get the tickets first." However, as soon as Xin Yu finished speaking, Han Fei took a step and directly crossed the void. With a wave of his hand, the entire sea, within 1,000 kilometers, was surging and raging waves were surging. The sky was full of water columns, dripping like knives, forming a sky full of rain. Xin Yu was puzzled. These two people are really strange. It seems that this movement is quite scary. However, can this rain waterfall hurt people? But if this rain waterfall is useless, what is the purpose of this person making this rain waterfall? Puff, 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 puff. Just as the crowd was about to enjoy the show, they saw the 4 peak Martial Highness realm cultivators who had attacked suddenly burst out in blood and their bodies were torn apart before they could even see their figures. Xin Yu was shocked. How could they be killed without warning? When Shen Yu took a closer look, he said in surprise, "Pay attention to that woman. She can turn into a shadow and kill shadows." After shouting this, when the raindrops fell, Xin Yu suddenly froze and immediately shouted, "Everyone, activate your spiritual energy protective cover." Pata, pata, pata. Everyone didn't doubt him. Xin Yu must have a reason for saying that. When the heavy rain fell, Xin Yu thought to himself, even if there is something wrong with this rain, it should be blocked. At this point, he stepped out, holding a big blue knife, slashing at the shadows on the sea while preparing to retrieve the 4 people. However, as soon as Xin Yu rushed out, there was a series of deafening explosions, which caused the sea to shake and the waves to collapse overnight. Oh no, there's really something wrong with this rain. Xin Yu wanted to command a retreat, but on second thought, retreat unscathed? I'm afraid the other party came prepared. It's too late for me to retreat unscathed. Ew, ew, ew. Most of the peak stage venerables couldn't resist the explosion of the infinity water if they only protected themselves with spiritual energy protective covers. Therefore, except for Xin Yu and the other 3 half-kings, the spiritual energy protective covers of all the other peak stage venerables were broken. However, as soon as the spiritual energy protective cover was broken, a stinky smell that could shake one's soul came to his face. Even after holding their breath, it was still the same. In this case, everyone's first reaction was, of course, that they were poisoned. Who would really think that a stench could hurt one's divine soul? In this case, what else could they do but escape? With a swish, Xin Yu tried to cut open the void and escape. But the next scene shocked him out of his wits. The void was blocked? Why couldn't he cut open the void? The same was true for the other half-kings. And Shinyu noticed that the man in black had also disappeared. In the void, a voice echoed, "I've told you to rob and pay, but you didn't listen. Now you forced me to kill the demons. A bunch of stupid sea demons." Chapter 1780. The moment these people were poisoned, Han Fei had already taken action. These people were from the 100 Demons clan and the Seabed Human clan. Even if they died, Xia Xiaochan wouldn't care, let alone Han Fei. Therefore, as soon as he came up, Han Fei started a massacre. It was easy for him to kill a peak-level venerable with the power of a king. They were not on the same level at all. However, Han Fei's void lines were limited. If he killed the enemies quickly, he would miss some, so he couldn't steal their vitality and soul power one by one. If he waited for them to die for a long time before he swallowed them, the effect would be greatly reduced. Therefore, Han Fei was not in a hurry. Xia Xiaochan only needed to kill 4 of them. Han Fei killed 4 powerhouses at the peak level of the Venerable Realm on the spot, and then he charged at a half-king realm powerhouse. Of course, this half-king realm powerhouse was not easy to deal with. All the leading half-king realm powerhouses were heavenly talents of the major forces. No matter how weak they were, they had some trump cards. Just like Tianheng, he only knew how to defend. So what? If he only knew how to defend, he could still explode in the end. Han Fei had the idea of killing the sea demons first and then the Seabed Human clan. Well, after all, he could directly absorb the chaotic energy contained in the bodies of the 100 Demon clan powerhouses. Here, there were 2 half-king realm powerhouses and 8 peak-level venerables. Xia Xiaochan killed 2, and Han Fei controlled 4 himself. There were 2 half-king realm powerhouses and 2 peak-level venerables. He would absorb these people first. Shinyu thought that Han Fei had ignored her. Perhaps he felt that she might be more difficult to deal with, so Han Fei didn't attack her immediately. Shinyu felt that she couldn't wait to die. Shinyu roared and threw out a shell. The shell shone brightly, and the phantom of a strong master appeared. Shinyu shouted, "Ancestor, cut the void." The so-called monarch strike was actually a monarch using a wisp of his consciousness and divine soul to launch 1 or more attacks with his own strength. Of course, the more attacks, the more consciousness and soul it would consume. After all, the kings of the major clans were limited. There were countless heavenly talents below the king level. If every single one of them gave them a strike, how would the days of the kings be able to continue? Since it was a strand of consciousness, it could be judged when it was released. So, when Shinyu shouted, Han Fei narrowed his eyes and wanted to chase after this guy. However, he saw that the king's strike was only used to pave the way for him. In the blink of an eye, Shinyu broke through her own seal. Swish, Shinyu increased his speed and rushed into the crack in the void. Han Fei had no choice but to take the king's blow head-on. At this moment, he couldn't let anyone else escape. Puff, puff, puff. After a while, Han Fei stood proudly above the sea. Other than Shinyu, everyone else was slaughtered. Han Fei was absorbing the chaotic energy and the power of his soul unhurriedly. He had a lot of mixed feelings when he looked at the information in his head. Owner Han Fei level 89, peak level venerable, family tree in the vast seas, 2720986 chaotic energy, 2161 strands mind power, 290168 perception, 180,000 kilometers power, 28,936 waves, first spiritual pulse. Unknown, second spiritual heritage. Unknown first spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 78, second spiritual beast, king sparrow, level 77, main art, void arrival, level 7 of void fishing, king level, divine quality. Han Fei never thought that he would make such a big breakthrough after entering the chaotic vast sea. When he was in the yin-yang sky, he thought that he was only half a king and could continue to cultivate until he became a king. But now, his overall strength had increased by nearly 50%. At this moment, he was still at the peak level venerable. God knew how strong he would be when he became a half a king. Seeing that the chaotic energy had exceeded 2,000 strands again, Han Fei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he had to work harder. In the words of the old turtle, when the chaotic energy was needed, it wouldn't feel like there was too much of it. At this moment, Han Fei was still in the outbreak period and could continue to grow. When he reached the bottleneck of the peak-level venerable, he wondered if his strength would soar again if he made another breakthrough. On the other hand, when Han Fei was almost done, Xia Xiaochan appeared next to him. "Be careful with your stinky breath. I didn't dare to break out of the encirclement to hunt." Han Fei grinned. "Those people aren't very strong, and they can't provide you with any experience. Besides, they came here for Nian-er's tribulation. Now that the tribulation has been completed, a simple breakthrough won't cause such a huge phenomenon. I don't think anyone will come here." A moment later, when the two of them returned to the boat, Nian-er was still making a breakthrough. The tree spirit and the others were also making breakthroughs. This time, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan didn't lie down but continued to bask in the sun and drink. Both of them sat cross-legged and cultivated. Han Fei told Xia Xiaochan something and continued to temper his body in Forge the Universe. During this period, Han Fei came out twice. He didn't go hunting until the old turtle reminded him that someone was nearby. Unfortunately, one of the 2 times was a mermaid expert. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan just robbed and didn't kill anyone. The other time was 2 peak-level venerables from the sea humans. The consequences were imaginable. On the 5th day of Nian-er's breakthrough, she had passed 4 minor levels and reached the level of an intermediate explorer. On this day, Han Fei was cultivating when the old turtle suddenly said, "That little girl has finished her breakthrough." Han Fei was refreshed when he heard that. Immediately, he stepped out of Forge the Universe. Xia Xiaochan and Xiao Sei were already standing at the bow of the boat. Xia Xiaochan glanced at Han Fei. "Nian-er's growth is too fast. She has become an intermediate explorer in only 5 days. At this rate, wouldn't he reach the half-venerable realm in a month or so?" "Brother," as soon as Nian-er finished her breakthrough, she flew over and said to Han Fei, "Brother, I'm sleepy." "Sleepy?" The old tortoise said, "This is no longer when she was young. Although she made breakthroughs extremely fast before and could break through dozens of levels in a day. However, after all, every time she makes a breakthrough, the consumption is countless times higher. Her breakthrough is too urgent, so she needs some time to sleep and let her body adjust to the state of cultivation spontaneously. This is the same as the sleeping of our turtle clan." After hearing the old turtle's explanation, Han Fei immediately looked at Xiao Sei and said, "Go to the painting to check on Gu Nian. You'd better go to the tree spirit's place and don't let anyone disturb Nian-er's self-adjustment." "Master Han Fei." It took Nian-er 5 days to make a breakthrough, but it didn't take the tree spirit and the others so long. They stayed outside for 2 days before they all made breakthroughs and returned to the sea-quelling painting. At this point, only Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were left on this big ship again. Han Fei said, "It's been half a month now. There are only so many 5-star danger zones. I think we've already found all the places we should find. The experts from all parties should be gathering. It's time for us to show up." Xia Xiaochan said, "Then let's go to the last danger zone, the undersea palace. If nothing went wrong, there should be a lot of experts gathered there. This should be our last chance to grab it." Han Fei heaved a sigh inwardly. Indeed, the danger zone was relative. In fact, everyone had their own methods. Didn't Ji Chen and Wuxing Chen find the deepest part of the Whale Valley? At this moment, only this last danger zone was left, and there must be a lot of people who wanted it. Of course, not everyone would go there, but as long as a small number of experts went there, it would be enough for him to hunt. He pointed the nautical panorama, and the Avengers sailed at full speed toward the undersea palace. When he was on the boat, Han Fei did some calculations. It seemed that during the half a month he stayed in the King Fallen Grave, more than 50 venerable realm experts had died in his hands. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. How difficult was it to become a venerable? This time, all the experts who came were peak-level venerables and half-king realm experts. It was even more difficult. This made Han Fei feel a little guilty. Didn't they say that after mastering the Great Tao, the great Tao attracted each other? He felt like he had become the one who harvested leeks. He had already cut one crop, and now he had to find another crop. Seeing Han Fei's weird expression, Xia Xiaochan asked, "What are you laughing at?" Han Fei shook his head. "Nothing. I just feel that venerables can't escape the fate of hunting and being hunted. It's really not easy to survive in this world." Xia Xiaochan said, "It's the same in every realm, including the Pioneer Sea realm. No matter where you are, the strong are the minority. The stronger, the fewer there are." Han Fei looked at Xia Xiaochan in surprise. "Wow, that's quite a thorough understanding." Xia Xiaochan rolled her eyes at Han Fei. "Well, didn't we know that when we were kids?" Half a day later, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan finally arrived at the sea near the Undersea Palace. As soon as they arrived, they happened to meet a small team of 4 people. The leader of the 4 said, "Remember, we're going to the Undersea Palace with the determination to die. But remember, don't be rash. If you can survive, of course, you have to. Only when you're alive will it make sense." Uncle Jean. However, as soon as the 4 people said that, only 100 seconds later, suddenly, on their way, they saw 2 figures, one black and one white, who had been waiting there for a long time. Zhao Jin's face changed slightly. 2 peak-level venerables? At this moment, a voice rang leisurely, "This is a robbery. Pay up." Chapter 1781. Zhao Jin was a demi-king of the Clear Sky sect, not a heavenly talent. His heavenly talent was not here, so he must have gone to explore the undersea heavenly palace. Zhao Jin didn't want to go. However, what if there was an opportunity? This time, in the 5-star danger zone, although there were some dangerous areas, they were still able to turn danger into safety. The strength of a demi-king was already the top existence below the king level. Of course, the premise was that he didn't encounter a particularly abnormal heavenly talent. All the demi-kings could more or less sense the opportunity to become a king, but they couldn't survive that tribulation. Zhao Jin naturally wanted to find an opportunity. At least, he thought that it would be much easier to find an opportunity here than in the imperial palace. The probability of dying in the land of the Kinggrave was only 30%. But what about the imperial palace? The probability of dying was 90%. No matter what, he couldn't let go of this opportunity. In fact, most of the demi-kings who came to the land of the Kinggrave this time had the same idea. Otherwise, they could just wait for the day the imperial palace opened and go to the imperial palace to fight for their lives. After all, those who came out of the imperial palace alive had all become kings. However, at this moment, Zhao Jin found that the 4 of them had been robbed by 2 peak-level venerables. Zhao Jin's face turned cold. What kind of person is this? You don't know how to do proper work and don't have the guts to explore the dangerous place, but you have the guts to rob people here? And you even robbed our own people? If I don't teach you a lesson today, I'm afraid you won't know the immensity of heaven and earth. From the beginning to the end, Zhao Jin only said that he wanted to teach them a lesson, but he didn't dare to say that he would kill them. After all, people who had lived for a long time had all kinds of ideas, so he didn't dare to say that he would kill them. Judging from this person's tone, he shouldn't be from the 13 heavens of the inner domain. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so timid. Han Fei said, "Which heavens are you from? If you're from the 13 heavens of the outer domain, I can consider giving you a discount." Zhao Jin was speechless. Is this a matter of discount or not? I'm a demi-king. How can I be robbed by 2 peak-level venerables? How can I be humiliated if I tell others? Fuse. However, Zhao Jin directly merged with a giant python with a body covered in colorful lights. Then, he took out a large halberd that was flickering with lightning. This slash of wind and thunder slashed at Han Fei and the others with a powerful momentum, not weaker than the others. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan exchanged a glance. A glove immediately appeared on Han Fei's hand. With a wave of his hand, he received the might of Zhao Jin's halberd in midair. He didn't even take half a step back. Zhao Jin's heart skipped a beat. Wasn't this a peerless heavenly talent that only appeared once in 1,000 years? Catching my halberd with one hand? If it's my clear sky heaven, no one can do it. Even clear sky heaven's strongest prodigy doesn't dare to say receiving my halberd with one hand. Puff, puff, puff. Zhao Jin didn't even need to turn his head to sense that the three pinnacle supremacies that followed him had actually been slaughtered. In that instant, Zhao Jin panicked. He immediately shouted, "Clear Sky Sect, Zhao Jin of Clear Sky Sect, the two of you are fellow humans, there's no need for me to kill you, isn't it just resources? Yes, 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 please save some dignity for the Clear Sky Sect." Zhao Jin didn't feel good at the moment. Fuck, these two are only at the pinnacle of the venerable realm. They haven't even reached the half-king realm yet. Are they already so ridiculously strong? In just one round, the four of us were all wiped out. In an instant, Zhao Jin realized that the gap between their strength and that of the true geniuses of the inner district was like an insurmountable chasm. Those people are already so strong, but they still rob outside. How can we, a few rookies, go to the undersea heavenly palace? Zhao Jin's words stunned Han Fei. Since he entered the land of the King Grave, he had never seen such a shameless person. What integrity? None at all. Seeing that he couldn't beat them, he just surrendered and admitted defeat. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder how this person cultivated to the half-king realm. However, when Han Fei saw the state of this person's qi and blood, he immediately understood that this person must have cultivated to the half-king realm over time. His lifespan should be running out soon. Therefore, his qi and blood were not so abundant. Seeing this, Han Fei didn't want to kill him. The clear sky heaven was quite low-key among the 13 outer domains. This kind of person wasn't strong enough to be an enemy of the yin-yang heaven, nor was he on his list of revenge targets. Therefore, Han Fei said, "Xiao on your back." Since the two of them were now called the black and white ghosts, Xia Xiaochan naturally also used the alias Xia Xiaoan. When Xia Xiaochan turned into a shadow and appeared in front of Han Fei, Zhao Jin immediately knew that this kind of person with special combat skills was most likely related to spiritual beasts. He probably couldn't beat this one. Han Fei said, "So, where are the resources?" Zhao Jin immediately took out a sun-moon shell and roared at the others, "Quickly, be reborn for me." The peak-level venerable didn't expect that he would be defeated in the first round. After being chopped up by Xia Xiaochan, he secretly controlled his soul and essence blood and hid. At this moment, being shouted at by Zhao Jin, the three of them were speechless. If the half-king expert couldn't resist, it was only a matter of time before they were caught and killed. If they didn't show up now, they would just struggle for a while longer. As a result, the three of them were slowly reborn. Their hearts were filled with extreme fear, and they were even prepared to die. On the road of cultivation, if you didn't have the mentality of dying at any time, how could you grow? Just when the three of them were panicking, Han Fei said, "Okay, I said there would be a discount in the 13 outer domains, so I'll give you a discount. I've already done my best to give you a 30% discount. Give me the sun-moon shell." Hearing this, Zhao Jin immediately handed over the sun-moon shell. Han Fei reached out to take it and scanned it with his perception. Suddenly he was shocked. Han Fei glanced at Zhao Jin in shock, a little incredulous. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, "What's wrong with you?" Han Fei didn't speak, but reached out to take the other three sun-moon shells and scanned them with his perception again. Smacked Han Fei slapped his head and scooped them up speechlessly. 4 sea-swallowing seashells, he fished out a total of 7 keys to the imperial palace. As for the rest, Han Fei showed Xia Xiaochan his hands. Xia Xiaochan glanced at it curiously. When she saw that the sun-moon seashell was almost empty, only Zhao Jin's sea-swallowing seashell had more than 1,000 top-quality spirit stones and some semi-venerable level materials lying alone, and the other 3 sun-moon shells were even poorer. There were even less than 100 ultra-quality spiritual stones. Can you believe it? Xia Xiaochan took a deep breath. Aren't they too poor? Don't tell me they've hidden all the good stuff? Zhao Jin hurriedly said, "Absolutely not. Heavenly talents from the inner domain, like you don't know the hardships of the clear sky. The clear sky is not at the forefront of the outer domain. With a large population, we have to divide a share of resources into 2. This time, we faced a lot of danger in the land of Kingrave, and the probability of dying is not small. So, we have long left our resources in the clear sky. After all, we venerables can devour spiritual energy by ourselves, right? Han Fei thought to himself, this time, I've finally seen it. From today on, if anyone told me which of the 36 mysterious heavens is the poorest, Han Fei would definitely say it's the clear sky. Han Fei was speechless. Keeping so many ultra-quality spiritual stones for emergencies. The clear sky is really stingy. To be honest, Han Fei was really embarrassed to take such a small amount of things. But Han Fei said leisurely, fine, as humans, it's not easy for you. How about this? I'll give you 1,000 ultra-quality spiritual stones for each of these 7 underground palace keys as a thank you gift. Xia Xiaochan? Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei speechlessly, puzzled. Is Han Fei out of his mind? Is this the Han Fei I know? Zhao Jin and the others were lucky not to die. Although it was definitely too cheap to buy an underground palace key with 1,000 ultra-quality spiritual stones. Even if the price was increased by 100 times, it would still be too little. However, if they didn't kill you, you should thank God. Zhao Jin and the others didn't dare to say no. Han Fei reached out and threw out the Sun Moon Shell and 7,000 ultra-quality spiritual stones in his hand. However, when Zhao Jin just caught the Sun Moon Shell, Han Fei said, Zhao Jin, right? Do you want to take back these 7 Imperial Palace keys in your hand? If they were sold in the Martial Emperor City, people would probably bid for them for millions of ultra-quality spiritual stones. Do you still want to take them back? Zhao Jin and the others looked at each other in bewilderment. Zhao Jin was even more puzzled. Can I? Xia Xiaochan immediately realized that Han Fei was still the same Han Fei. Spit out what he got? That's impossible. But she didn't know what he was going to do. Han Fei said, you said that you are half a king, and your lifespan is almost up. It stands to reason that ultra-quality spiritual stones are no longer of much use to you. However, who doesn't like having more resources? If you have money, what can't you buy? If you go to the Imperial Palace, you must be prepared, right? How about I give you an idea? Maybe you can not only earn these 7 Imperial Palace keys but also make a lot of money. If you have too much money, maybe you can find an auction house and get some good things back. What do you think? Wow, Zhao Jin was a little dumbfounded. Is there such a good thing in the world? However, Han Fei has already spoken. If I deny it, I'm afraid this person will get angry, won't he? I might as well promise him first. After I leave and find a secret realm to hide in, this person probably won't be able to find me. Zhao Jin asked, what secret do you have? I'm all ears. Han Fei's voice was leisurely. Hiding thousands of people in the vast sea is like looking for a needle in a haystack. But if you can bring some people from other immortal palaces, after I rob them of their resources, I can give your clear sky heaven 10%. It's up to you whether you want to do it or not. The black and white ghosts, have always been chivalrous and righteous, robbing the rich and helping the poor. I said I want your money, but not your lives. You can think about it. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1782. After hearing Han Fei's suggestion, Zhao Jin hesitated for a moment and then responded surprisingly, fellow Taoist, that's a good idea. I'll try my best. I just don't know how to find you, fellow Taoist. Seeing that Han Fei didn't want to kill him, Zhao Jin knew that Han Fei was asking him to rob people, but why not? He was almost 7,000 years old. He used to be a heavenly talent. However, his body was getting worse. Whether it was the King Grave or the next exploration of the palace, he had to go. If he didn't go now, he wouldn't have a chance anymore. At this moment, after witnessing the power of others, he realized that he couldn't do it anymore. If he didn't even dare to take the last chance, why would he go to the palace? Seeing that Zhao Jin's eyes seemed to be burning, Han Fei smiled and said, no problem. We will definitely find traces of the black and white ghosts within 1,000,000 kilometers of the undersea heavenly palace. If you still can't find them, you can only say that we are not fated. Zhao Jin nodded. I'm sure we are fated. In that case, I'll go ahead first. Okay, hearing their conversation, Xia Xiaochan felt that Han Fei had found a bosom friend. As for the others in the Clear Sky sect, they all thought that Zhao Jin was crazy. After a moment, in the sky hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, someone said, "Elder Zhao, are you really going to cooperate with those two bandits?" Someone echoed, "That's right, Elder Zhao. Those two don't look like good people. Can they really give us any benefits?" Zhao Jin said unhurriedly, "That's not true. Let me ask you, how strong are they?" One of them said, "They are very strong. That woman is so fast that we couldn't react at all. We felt that we couldn't move at all. Our shadows must have been controlled, and the three of us were killed in an instant." Another person said, "That man was able to block Elder Zhao's attack with his bare hands. He's definitely a peerless genius." Zhao Jin continued, "You've all cultivated all the way here. Don't you know that the real friendship between people is the binding of interests? As long as we can bring new people to them, whether they are humans, sea demons, sea people, or mermaids, we will bring them there. As the saying goes, make money together, make money together. This is an unbreakable relationship of interest." Zhao Jin's eyes narrowed. "So, we have to do it even if we don't want to. Opportunities are fought for by oneself." Being encouraged by Zhao Jin's words, the other three people from Clear Sky were also a little moved. On the other hand, two top-grade venerable ones pondered for a while and looked at each other. They decided not to take the risk. The two bade farewell to Zhao Jin. Zhao Jin didn't stop him. He was gambling as well. But the problem was not the bet itself. He knew how hard he had worked, how careful, and how cautious he had been to climb his way up from a nobody to where he was now. Now that he had reached the end of his caution, it was time for him to go all out. If others weren't willing, that was their choice. On the other side, Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but wonder, can they really bring people here? Han Fei said, "Who cares? Can bring the best." If he couldn't bring it back, he would lose 7,000 top-grade spirit stones. As long as they can bring anyone over, we can definitely earn it back. I've never seen such a poor person in my entire life in the chaotic azure sea. The Clear Sky is quite capable. Xia Xiaochan was speechless. Seeing Han Fei being defeated was sometimes more amusing than winning. The next day, the Avenger had already arrived near the undersea sky palace. In the middle of the night, he caught a group of cultivators from the refining god Heaven, extorted a lot of money, and got about 300,000 top-grade spirit stones, more than 3,000 spiritual fruits, 5 keys to the Imperial Palace, and a number of other items. Early this morning, he robbed another 2 mermaids and obtained 6 keys to the Imperial Palace. Although Han Fei was close to the undersea sky palace, it would be good if 1/5 of the people came. The probability of Han Fei running into them was not very high. Therefore, Han Fei's robbery speed was already not bad. At noon, Han Fei made dumplings himself. It was not bad to change his taste occasionally. Han Fei didn't make a lot of dumplings, only 300. He, Xia Xiaochan, and Hexagon Starfish, each of them made 100 to taste. However, Han Fei had only tasted 50, and a customer came to him. It was none other than Zhao Jin. Hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, Han Fei scanned with his perception and saw Zhao Jin's team of 8 people. Among them, there were only 2 people from the Clear Sky Heaven, but they brought 6 people. After a moment, Zhao Jin said to one of them, "Brother Li Fan, we know our strength very well. If we want to survive in this chaotic azure sea and even become a king, I'm afraid there's no hope if we don't work hard." Li Fan said leisurely, "Who doesn't know that? But this undersea sky palace is full of strong masters. I'm wondering if we should wait and gather the fellow Taoists from the 13 outer heavens. At that time, it may be better for us to work together and advance and retreat together." Zhao Jin said, "But the number of resources is limited. If we fight for them in the end, alas." Li Fan heaved a long sigh. "That's true." They were heading for the undersea sky palace, but a moment later, with a swish, a big ship broke out of the void. Suddenly, it appeared thousands of kilometers away from Zhao Jin and the others. Zhao Jin and Li Fan's faces changed drastically. Zhao Jin said, "Not good, Brother Li, we may have been ambushed." However, Li Fan suddenly said, "No, look, there are only 2 people on that ship, and they don't seem to be very strong. The 2 of us should be able to take them down easily." Zhao Jin said, "Who knows if they have a backup plan?" Li Fan said with a smile, "Look, they are in a hurry. They are obviously escaping. They are being chased. Brother Zhao, go and take them down." Zhao Jin thought to himself, "Take them down? How can I take them?" Of course, Zhao Jin pretended to hesitate for a moment and also rushed up. Li Fan stretched out his hand and pushed, and more than 100 bloody thorns directly surrounded Han Fei's Avenger. Li Fan shouted, "The 2 people on the ship, hand over the sun-moon shells." Yes, wasn't this the case in the chaotic Azure Sea? The stronger ones would rob the weaker ones. Those who were weak, robbing those who were even weaker, or harming those who were stronger. Anyway, that was what Li Fan did. Compared with Zhao Jin, his attitude was even more unfriendly. While doing this, Li Fan said to Zhao Jin via voice transmission, "Brother Zhao, these 2 people are vigorous and must be heavenly talents from the inner domain. It seems that we are going to make a fortune this time. As long as we take these 2 people down, I think we can make a small fortune." Zhao Jin sighed in his heart and said to himself, "Brother Fan, you are too polite. I did make a small fortune, but you just take it as a loss." After more than 10 minutes, when Han Fei blew up Li Fan's ultra-quality divine weapon, Mother-Sun Shield, Li Fan was dumbfounded. His arm was blown up together with it. Li Fan was speechless. "If you are so strong, why did you come here to be a robber?" Because Li Fan was from the bloody evil heaven. The 6 peak level venerables he brought with him were all good at hunting. They were agile, responsive, and had strong explosive power. As for the other 2, because their great Dao powers were slightly more special, one grasped the speed of lightning, while the other grasped the power of the wind. Plus, there was a peak level venerable from the green sky heaven. These people could barely put some pressure on Xia Xiaochan when they were besieging her. These people wanted to run, but they had seen Han Fei's strength. Now their boss, Li Fan, had been captured. If they dared to run, Han Fei wouldn't hold back and would kill them. Those who could grow to the peak of the venerable realm could distinguish their strength clearly. As long as there was a chance to escape, they would also run away. The point was that they didn't think they could run away. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan didn't use the power of the giant arowana or the heavenly cicada, but just the power of the shadow shrimp. Rip. Xia Xiaochan turned into a shadow, and someone shouted, "Pay attention to the shadow." At that moment, someone covered himself with lightning. Someone stood on the water, surrounded by storms. Someone went into stealth and disappeared without a trace. What kept appearing were the cracks left in the void by the moment of battle. Han Fei shook his head slightly. These people were still not good enough to be Xia Xiaochan's sparring partners. Xia Xiaochan's combat power was too strong. Now that she was fighting with them, she could at most consolidate her combat skills and train her reaction ability. But as for how much pressure, Xia Xiaochan didn't feel any pressure at all. If nothing unexpected happened, these people would soon be defeated. And Han Fei didn't watch anymore. He turned his head to look at Li Fan and Zhao Jin, who were controlled, and said lightly, "Ghosts take our souls, and ghosts take our lives. In the valley of the living dead, the black and white ghosts come to the sea again. Money opens the way and resources buy lives. Transactions on site, no credit allowed. I, the black and white ghosts, have always been fair in doing business. Since you are from the 13 outer heavens, I'll give you a 30% discount." Li Fan had to bow his head. "How much is a 30% discount?" Han Fei grinned. "A 30% discount on all your belongings. You have to give me all the keys to the palace." Li Fan was shocked. "What the hell is the difference between you and a pirate?" However, Han Fei said leisurely, "The money has to be paid on the spot. But if you can find people from the 13 inner heavens for me to rob, I can give you a 10% commission, including the keys to the palace." Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1783. After Han Fei and Li Fan confirmed the number of resources, Xia Xiaochan quickly finished the battle in 10 minutes. Her speed was much slower than Han Fei's. However, it should be noted that Han Fei had become a half-king, and Xia Xiaochan had always been a peak-level venerable. Han Fei shook his head helplessly. There are a total of 9 keys to the Imperial Palace. I didn't count the others. Although they are much better than the clear sky heaven, they may not be comparable to a heavenly talent from the 13 heavens of the inner domain. It's boring to rob them. Xia Xiaochan also agreed. I found that their combat power is not good either. Even if a few of them are obviously talented and the great Daos they awaken are not too bad, they are still far behind in a real battle. They can't even calm down. The more they fight, the more flustered they become. Han Fei thought to himself, how can I not panic? You've already fought against 7 of them, and it was a burst battle. After a series of moves, a moment of carelessness would be gone. Who wouldn't panic? Of course, Han Fei wouldn't say that. He just comforted her. That's because your bloodline talent is extremely high, and they are from the 13 heavens of the outer domain. They are not the best heavenly talents yet. So, you still have to fight with the heavenly talents of the inner domain. Maybe you can grow. Xia Xiaochan nodded. She looked back at the undersea palace and couldn't help asking, are we going? Han Fei said, but now is not the time. Those who should go in should have all gone in. But I don't see anyone coming out. What does this mean? Xia Xiaochan asked, are they trapped inside? That's one of the reasons. This shows that they haven't completely explored this place yet. Otherwise, they would have started a melee. However, they are fighting below. If we go down now, it will be a waste of effort. Maybe we won't get any treasures. Instead of doing this, we might as well wait until the battle is almost over and the resources are all in the hands of some people. Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei's confident look and couldn't help saying, you are much calmer than before. If you encountered this in the past, you would have gone down long ago. Han Fei grinned. Of course. I have a big appetite now. About half an hour after the battle, Zhao Jin came. Seeing the two of them talking at the bow, he immediately cupped his hands and said, fellow cultivator Black Impermanence. Han Fei smiled faintly. You've seen how many resources Li Fan has. Not many. While criticizing Li Fan, Han Fei took out a large amount of resources and threw a key to the Imperial Palace to Zhao Jin. Han Fei said, maybe the outer 13 heavens are not our goal. If you can attract the experts of the 13 heavens of the inner domain, you might be able to reap some benefits. However, Zhao Jin bitterly laughed. Dao friend, I have already gone to all 12 of the 5-star danger zones. Although I didn't enter all of them, half a month has passed and those who should have come out have already come out. Those who shouldn't have come out had probably died long ago. Please forgive me for saying this, but I'm afraid that those who should have entered have already entered. As for the rest, I'm afraid that they wouldn't dare to come to this underwater palace. You mean you can't find him? Zhao Jin immediately said, no, of course not. What I mean is, I can gather some people outside the underwater heavenly palace and attack the people coming out of the underwater heavenly palace, if those people are injured. If you want, we can do it again. However, I'm afraid it will take at least 2 or 3 days to persuade them. Do you want to wait? Han Fei thought for a moment. It seemed that Zhao Jin was right. Half a month had passed. The 5-star danger zones that should have been explored had already been explored. However, in addition to the 5-star danger zones, there were a large number of 4-star danger zones and 3-star danger zones. Most peak-level venerables didn't have to come to those danger zones to court death. Thinking of this, Han Fei smiled. If you can gather a group of people and wait here, it's not a bad idea. Many a little makes a mickle and you'll get a lot of benefits. Zhao Jin nodded. Yes. Han Fei didn't intend to attack Zhao Jin. There was no need at all. Zhao Jin's net worth was even lower than a mosquito's leg. It was like he didn't have to bully a poor beggar and let those rich people do whatever they wanted. Even if Zhao Jin could gather a group of people, Han Fei wouldn't be interested. Even if he robbed a large group of people, He might not be as rich as this heavenly talent from the Grand Purity Palace. Why did he have to offend so many people? 2 days later, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan waited outside for 2 days. For the past 2 days, the Avenger had been openly floating on the surface of the sea outside the undersea palace. However, they didn't meet a single person. This made Han Fei wonder if the people in the land of the Kinggrave had all gone out in advance. On the 3rd day, Han Fei finally couldn't hold it anymore. When he measured an auspicious hexagram with the 9-palace destiny ruler, he immediately said, "Girl, let's go in." Xia Xiaochan said, "You're finally willing to go in?" Han Fei said, "It's mainly because none of them came out. It doesn't make sense. It's been 5 days. At least someone should come out. But we didn't meet a single person. Could it be that he escaped from somewhere else?" Xia Xiaochan said, "Don't think too much. Let's go down and have a look." The reason why the underwater palace was called the underwater palace was that it had a characteristic. It was said that this world was upside down, as if the deepest part of the sea was the highest point of the sky. It sounded dreamy. The entrance of the underwater palace was a huge vortex, like a crack in the savage abyss. Of course, it was much smaller than that kind of super vortex. Xia Xiaochan didn't want to be separated from Han Fei. God knew what would happen if they were separated again. Therefore, when they jumped into the vortex, the two hugged each other like bungee jumping. In the vortex, they spun for about half an hour, and the two even kissed for a while. At this time, their eyes lit up and they appeared in a new world. When Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up, they saw countless translucent jellyfish with glowing ribbons on their bodies. And these jellyfish were all heading downstream. Han Fei and the others were also heading downward. It felt as if the world had been turned upside down. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan looked at each other. Han Fei stretched out the void lines and immediately controlled a blue jellyfish. Taking a closer look, information appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Named Dream Poison Jellyfish Introduction, a very special kind of jellyfish. Because they live in the extremely deep sea, they spend most of their lives sleeping and their bodies move instinctively. When the dream poison jellyfish is asleep, it will emit a poison that can make people dream. This poison is invisible, colorless, and difficult to resist. Once it falls asleep, the dream poison jellyfish will subconsciously absorb and nibble away the soul of the dreamer until the dreamer dies. Level 78 quality rare contains spiritual energy greater than 140,154 points. Edible effect, sleep, collectibles, dream poison. Note, be careful of the dream poison in the water. After seeing this message, Han Fei immediately shouted, "Girl, Master Hexagon Starfish, protect your bodies with spiritual energy. The water is poisonous." Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, "Poisonous?" Master Hexagon's starfish directly formed a circle of defense, enveloping the three of them, and exclaimed, "No wonder Starfish was dizzy just now. It turns out that he was poisoned. Han Fei, are you going to treat Starfish?" Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, "These are all jellyfish that haven't become venerable. Even if they are poisonous, how can you be poisoned so quickly?" The Hexagon starfish muttered, "Starfish have poor resistance." Han Fei, his body was sinking. As long as he avoided the poison of these dream poison jellyfish, he wouldn't get lost. Han Fei took out the nautical panorama. After determining the direction, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan didn't stop but went straight in the specified direction. Unfortunately, he couldn't exert his physical strength in this place. He seemed to be floating in midair, and his speed was not fast. In 1 second, he could only walk about 100 meters. Fortunately, Han Fei was good at the close distance technique. Even so, it took them an hour to walk through this vast sea of jellyfish. Just when Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were about to leave this sea, suddenly, Han Fei saw someone sitting upside down on the head of the dream poison jellyfish. Han Fei thought to himself, "Is this a dream?" But when Han Fei was about to take away this person's sun-moon seashell, this person suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. "What do you want?" "I am Bai Jingjiu, a myriad poison heavenly being." As he spoke, The surface of this person's body changed into all kinds of strange colors. The pure and immaculate seawater around him was dyed with various colors. Han Fei was speechless. Bai Jingjiu? You think I'm freeloading? Han Fei said, I don't know you. I don't seem to have seen you under the heavenly fault ancient tree. Bai Jingjiu said, my senior brother Dongfang Ming can go to that place. You two wouldn't be thinking of robbing me, right? Nonsense, how is that possible? We, the black and white ghosts, just thought you were poisoned when we saw you sitting cross-legged on the ground. If you were, we could save you. Bai Jingjiu sneered. How can such a small poison resist the means of the myriad poison heavenly being? However, I thank the two of you for your kindness. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, wait, fellow cultivator Bai, the undersea palace is so big. What are you doing playing with jellyfish here? Bai Jingjiu said leisurely, I'm collecting dream poison. By the way, a reminder, there seems to be a lot of hair down there. It's extremely tough and will emit hallucinatory poison. Be careful. Please vote for me. End of this chapter. Chapter 1784. Han Fei wondered if he should rob this Bai Jingjiu. This time, it was not for the imperial palace key, but for the poison in Bai Jingjiu's body. Anyone who dared to come to this place to collect poisons was obviously not an ordinary person. However, Han Fei gave up after thinking for a while. This person was half a king, but when Han Fei talked to him just now, his body, eyes, and many other parts of his body were emitting poisonous gas. Huang Jie, the myriad poison ancestor, said that although he had cultivated the power of the heaven spirit detoxifying insect well, he was still far from it. At least, the poison that the myriad poison ancestor gave him had poisoned him for a long time. If this heavenly talent of the myriad poison heaven had a sea expansion stage poison, who would dare to mess with him? Han Fei wondered why he would covet a guy from the myriad poison heaven when there were so many people from other palaces and forces down here. Han Fei smiled. Are you not going down, fellow cultivator Bai? Bai Jingjiu said, yes. I'll go in half a day at most. By the way, my senior brother is collecting poisons down there. He has a strange temper. Don't irritate him. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, your senior brother? Dongfang Ming? Bai Jingjiu nodded. It's rare to come here. The poisons collected are all ultimate treasures. Forget it. You don't understand. You can go now. I'm going to collect more poisons. Han Fei glanced at Xia Shaochan, and the two of them quickly left. A moment later, Xia Shaochan said, you didn't rob him. That's not your style. Han Fei shook his head. I have to rob him, don't I? This person is not weak, but he's quite vigilant. He has been using poison since we approached him. I bet that if we rob him, there will be extremely powerful poisons waiting for us in the end. There are so many people to rob. We don't have to rob a poison user. Although Han Fei said that, he secretly thought that his resistance to poisons was not strong enough. Xia Shaochan was probably even weaker than him. When he ate all the poisons in the myriad poison heaven, he would really be able to do whatever he wanted. When Han Fei and Xia Shaochan continued to swim down and when the place was completely dark and there was not a single luminous creature left, Han Fei subconsciously pinched his fingers and said, that's right, it's not that big. Girl, it may be a bit dangerous. Xia Shaochan said, I feel that something is watching us out of kindness. This so-called undersea sky palace was like a person flying to the sky. It was constantly swimming to the bottom of the sea, and no one knew where it went. When Han Fei noticed that the coldness of the seawater was soaring, he knew that danger was coming. He immediately scanned the area with his perception, but then he found that his perception range was only a few thousand meters away. His perception was suppressed. At this moment, red spots of light appeared in the sea around them in all directions, like countless eyes. From the bottom of the sea, they looked like stars in the night sky, but most of them were red. It looked rather terrifying. 4 powerhouses of the half-king realm like Han Fei and the others, a kilometer was a very short distance. It could even be said that it was not a distance at all. After confirming that his perception was blocked, Han Fei issued a telepathic thought, and spiritual energy flames were ignited within a kilometer. Sure enough, at the moment when the spiritual energy flames were ignited, Han Fei and Xia Shaochan saw dense, hair-like black hair spreading over quickly. Not only that, in these long black hair, there were a total of 13 corpses, including those of humans, mermaids, demons, and sea humans. These people didn't seem to be completely dead and seemed to still be alive. They must have been controlled by these weird hair. Xia Shaochan breathed a sigh of relief. Hundreds of people came in, and only 13 are controlled here. It shouldn't be too dangerous. The hexagon starfish murmured, "They look terrifying. Are these 13 demi-kings? Even the half-kings are dead here. Let's go back quickly." Han Fei sneered. Those who dare to come here must have something up their sleeves. If they can't even resist this little danger, how can they explore such a dangerous place? However, as soon as Han Fei said that, 12 more people were pushed out of the huge amount of hair. Some of these people's bodies were already broken, but they were still alive. However, their last breath should be conscious. Xia Shaochan frowned. 25. That seems to be a bit too many. Han Fei glanced at them and found that he didn't know any of them. Without saying much, he grabbed the nautical panorama and continued to point the way. When the pointer was pointed, Han Fei waved his hand, and the infinity water turned into dense blades, condensed into a storm of blades, and rushed out. However, at the moment that Han Fei attacked, the 25 controlled demi-monarchs attacked at the same time, unleashing all kinds of powerful techniques toward Han Fei. However, after this attack, Han Fei clearly knew that these half-kings couldn't exert their peak strength. Han Fei blew up a half-king with one spear strike, and in front of him, there was a pile of chopped hair. These hair-like hairs were still conscious and could still grab at Han Fei. Of course, as the airwaves outside Han Fei's body vibrated, a lot of hairs were destroyed by the invincible fighting intent. And it was even more convenient for Xia Shaochan to attack. Xia Shaochan fought with the shadow kill technique all the time and didn't have a real body at all, so these hairs couldn't do anything to her. The two of them cooperated with each other, and one half-king was smashed or cut open by the two of them one after another. During this period, Han Fei felt several times that a vague power tried to infect his soul. For example, some illusory scenes always appeared in front of him. But fortunately, Han Fei's soul power was extremely strong, which had completely surpassed the soul power that a half-king should have, so he was almost completely immune to this kind of illusion, namely the illusion poison in Bai Jingjiu's mouth. While fighting, Xia Shaochan burst out an earth-shattering dragon roar. 3 people were shattered in a row, and thousands of red light spots were also shattered. Han Fei asked, "Are you okay? The illusion poison they release can make people hallucinate." Xia Shaochan nodded. "I'm fine. I just feel this illusion is annoying, so I shattered it." Reassured, Han Fei quickly moved to a place with red eyes, only to see creatures that were only the size of a palm but had long hair all over their bodies. In his eyes, information emerged. Name Thousand Silk Demon Sunflower. Introduction. This is a very special kind of sea anemone. Because it lives in the extremely deep sea, it is very interested in all foreign creatures and likes to devour creatures and their memories. The Thousand Silk Demon Sunflower's long threads are tough. One may not be strong, but if you are entangled by countless long threads, it will be difficult for you to get away. The illusion poison in its body can cause creatures to have an illusion effect, so it hunts creatures. Level 79 quality rare contains spiritual energy greater than 156,154 points. Edible effect. In Nedible collectibles demon silk. Note, a large amount of demon silk can be woven into extremely tough armor. Han Fei wasn't interested in armor or not. The main reason was that the level of this Thousand Silk Demon Sunflower was too low. If he wanted to make clothes with this demon silk, he didn't know how many times he would have to temper it. Anyway, Han Fei was not interested in it. Within dozens of kilometers around Han Fei, the seawater automatically strangled the Thousand Silk Demon Sunflower, which couldn't resist at all, and a large number of demon sunflowers were dying. And after a dozen of those half-king powerhouses were killed, the Thousand Silk Demon Sunflower began to retreat quickly. They seemed to know that Han Fei's strength was extraordinary, and it was impossible to take him down directly. Xia Xiaochan turned back into a human form from the shadow state. She said, "Those half-king powerhouses can only use some simple means. They can't even use any big skills. It seems that these creatures can only be controlled." Han Fei shook his head. "Not necessarily. These sea anemones are only half-venerables. How can they intercept and kill half-king powerhouses?" Xia Xiaochan was shocked. "There's danger." Swish. Swish. As soon as Xia Xiaochan said so, a red eyeball hundreds of meters wide appeared in the distance. This eyeball was countless times larger than the size of a palm. Han Fei immediately shouted, "Pay attention, don't be hypnotized." Needless to say, these half-king powerhouses died for a reason. Now that the small ones couldn't do it, the big ones came. This huge 1,000 silk demon sunflower was astonishingly fast. Han Fei's million knife flow collided with its demon silk, making clanking sounds. Although Han Fei could feel that a lot of demon silk had been cut off by him, it was just a drop in the bucket compared to this huge 1,000 silk demon nest. While the infinity water was fighting against the demon silk, Han Fei suddenly felt a shock in his mind. This thing could actually kill him with spiritual power. Han Fei grunted, holding the embroidery needle in his hand, and immediately launched a heavenly stab. It was also a soul attack, but Han Fei's blow failed to hit the 1,000 silk demon sunflower but exploded not far from it. However, when the aftershock disappeared, Han Fei found that there were hundreds of super 1,000 silk demon sunflowers around him. Are you fucking kidding me? Clatter, clatter. Han Fei was in a daze. When he was about to fuse with Little Black and Little White, he saw a mermaid's shadow appear in the air, and strange notes burst out from Xia Xiaochan, shaking his soul. Then, the giant 1,000 silk demon sunflowers exploded one after another. Seeing that Han Fei was shocked, Xia Xiaochan said to him via voice transmission, "This is the mermaid's song, my life inheritance." First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1785. Han Fei had always thought that Xia Xiaochan was not good at mental attacks and was a pure explosive expert who was good at hunting. What Han Fei didn't expect was that Xia Xiaochan had inherited the song of mermaids. When the melodious and clear singing voice reverberated in the water, the 1,000 silk devil sunflowers exploded one by one, leaving only one. Only then did Han Fei discover that the 1,000 silk magic sunflowers that popped up one after another were all fake, and there was only one real body. So, Han Fei realized that even he was poisoned just now. Although he wasn't poisoned deeply, he was still affected. It seemed that there was still a gap between them in terms of poison path. Just now, according to Han Fei's temper, he must have started a fight, and he would have been toyed with by this 1,000 silk magic sunflower for a while. At this moment, the giant 1,000 silk demon sunflowers seemed to have been defeated by Xia Xiaochan's song. The tens of thousands of demonic threads surged toward Xia Xiaochan with bared fangs and brandished claws. How could Han Fei let him do as he wished? Han Fei strode to Xia Xiaochan. The infinity water and the invincible will were activated to the extreme, and Han Fei was as dazzling as the sun. Hiss! With this slash, a large number of golden water blades followed. Wherever it passed, the demonic threads of the 1,000 silk demonic sunflower were shattered, and none of them could resist the power of Han Fei's knife. When the body of the 1,000 silk magic sunflower was riddled with holes, Han Fei sneered. "Do you think you're the only one with silk? My void lines aren't?" Han Fei immediately buckled the void lines. In Xia Xiaochan's song, Han Fei pressed forward, and in the end he calmly charged back and forth in the thousands of threads of the 1,000 silk demon sunflower. 30 breaths later, the 1,000 silk demon sunflower finally died. Even the 124 wisps of chaotic energy in his body were swallowed by Han Fei. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan naturally stopped singing. Seeing that Han Fei was going to extract the demonic silk of the 1,000 silk magic sunflower, Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but ask, "What's this for?" Han Fei said with a smile, "After all, it's a thread of the half-king realm. A few of them can be made into ultra-quality divine fishing lines. In the end, it's not cheap. It'll be a waste if I don't take it. After a pause, Han Fei couldn't help but ask, why is singing a life heritage? However, the sound is quite nice. Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but blush. This is the talent of the mermaids. The song of the mermaid, which has been passed down, is the melody of the great Tao in the bloodline. It is a soul technique that can be used for both offense and defense. Han Fei couldn't help but smack his lips. Interesting. After quickly collecting a lot of demonic threads, Han Fei said, let's go. There was more than 1,000 silk devil sunflower at the half-monarch realm. There are only 2 people hanging on these threads. Looks like there's more than one in the dark. Let's leave first. Han Fei was not interested in continuing to fight here. Those 1,000 silk magic sunflowers should have seen Han Fei's power, so they didn't continue to come out to fight. However, what Han Fei didn't know was that shortly after they left, a figure slowly walked out from the depths of the demonic threads. That person was holding a small bottle in his hand. There was a large amount of black gas around it that was drilling into it. If Han Fei were here, he would recognize that this man was Dongfang Ming, a heavenly talent of the 10,000 poison heaven. Looking at the direction in which Han Fei and the others left, Dongfang Ming murmured, why are human beings with mermaids? Forget it. It's already the 10th wave of people. It seems that I have to ask my junior brothers to move forward. Following the direction pointed by the nautical panorama, it took Han Fei about half an hour to pass through a layer of clouds at the bottom of the sea that looked like clouds. Yes, at this moment Han Fei knew that he was at the bottom of the sea, but he felt that he was flying to the sky. As expected of the undersea palace. This time, after passing the clouds, the area was not as spacious as before. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan appeared in a canyon. However, the 2 of them were floating in the air as if they were weightless. In fact, it wasn't difficult to travel. Han Fei could activate the closed distance technique, and Xia Xiaochan could flash infinitely. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan's infinite flash was no longer what it used to be. Now, she could appear in dozens of places in an instant, and it was impossible to tell her location from the turbulence in the void. Even if she could, by the time you noticed the turbulence in the void, Xia Xiaochan had already arrived. Therefore, this was still a great technique that was difficult to crack. At this moment, the 2 approached this canyon and could clearly see that there seemed to be an orange-red light in the depths of this canyon. Something must have happened over there, or something different had happened. However, when Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan wanted to go there directly with the closed distance technique and the ability to flash, they suddenly found that no matter how they flashed, their positions didn't change. The same was true for Han Fei. The 2 looked at each other and said in unison, has the space been sealed? Yes, the space here was sealed. No spatial technique would be of any use here. The 2 of them certainly wouldn't just stay here and do nothing. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan took out fishing rods almost at the same time and hooked at the stone wall of the canyon with a swish. The 2 of them moved faster and faster, and their bodies became heavier and heavier without any gravity. When the 2 of them completely fell into the canyon, they felt at least 10,000 times the gravity on their bodies, trying to press them to the bottom of the sea and prevent them from moving forward quickly. Han Fei couldn't help but laugh. Interesting. Such a delicate design. Could it be that someone could open a cave house here in such a fierce battle? Xia Xiaochan nodded. The undersea palace must be a palace-type existence. But now, I don't even see the shadow of the palace. While the 2 of them were talking, the ground suddenly began to shake. From all directions, from the cracks on the rock walls and the bottom of the sea, a large number of black shadows floated out. These black shadows quickly condensed and finally turned into undead creatures with ferocious eyes that looked like ghosts. In addition to these invisible undead creatures, Han Fei also saw claws protruding out of the ground from time to time. Before he knew it, the canyon road was full of powerful skeletons. The hexagon starfish covered its eyes. I'm so scared. Starfish knew that we couldn't come here. Look, Starfish was right, wasn't he? The number of undead creatures was just too many. How can we fight them? Xia Xiaochan said, shut up. No matter how we fight, we don't need you to fight. Xia Xiaochan took a breath and said, "It seems that we have to fight all the way." Han Fei nodded slightly. The 3 times are like an experience. This time, the target has been given to us. We just need to walk along this canyon. In Han Fei's eyes, these undead creatures were basically in the venerable realm. Their number was not as large as he had imagined, but they were definitely much stronger than he had imagined. Including those invisible undead creatures, each of which was extremely powerful, and there were even half-king undead creatures. It seemed that they were caused by devouring each other. Han Fei thought to himself, "Old Yuan, the undead creatures should also exist to protect something, right?" The old turtle nodded. "Generally speaking." But Han Fei asked, "But what?" The old turtle heaved a long sigh and said, "But there's another guess?" Han Fei had a bad feeling. The old turtle said, "I didn't want you to know before because the level involved is too high. But now we have encountered this place, I think it may be the only way in the process of growth." The old turtle said, "Rumor has it that the birth of the undying creatures is due to one of the 3 godly temples, a force called the Undying Temple. They have been exploring death. And the existence of the undead creatures is to protect, which is the enlightenment of the immortal temple. After a long time, people have known that the existence of the undead creatures is to protect." Han Fei thought, "Sure enough, it's not a good thing." Han Fei said, "So, it is very likely that the existence of the undead creatures is just a way for the immortal temple to cultivate believers." The old turtle said, "Well, I don't know. This emperor only knows that the undying shrine pursues immortality." Han Fei asked, "Won't they be immortal if they become emperors?" The old turtle scoffed. "The venerable emperor can be called the immortal realm, but it doesn't mean that they are immortal. In fact, even the gods have the end of their lives. How can the venerable emperor be an exception? Therefore, some people speculate that all the undead creatures in the world are a kind of exploration of death by the immortal temple. And what kind of powerful existence can explore death? It's like crossing the river of time. How can it be so easy? Otherwise, why do you need the temple of time? Therefore, I suspect that there is a more powerful god behind the 3 shrines." Han Fei asked, "Didn't you say that the gods have all fallen?" The old turtle said, "What we know is that the gods have all fallen. However, we are not gods. So, are they really dead or not? No one knows." Han Fei was helpless. "So now I can only fight my way through?" The old turtle said, "Don't worry. The existence of the 3 shrines is a secret. They won't attack you because of such a trivial matter. Now, many people have broken into this undersea palace, so it shouldn't be very difficult to go this way. At least, with your strength, it shouldn't be a big problem for you to reach the end." While Han Fei was chatting with the old turtle, Xia Xiaochan said, "Let's fight our way through. Although they are all venerables, there don't seem to be many half-king realm cultivators. With your physique and my speed, it shouldn't be a problem for us to break through." Han Fei shrugged. "Let's go." Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1786. In terms of actual combat, both Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were tough characters. With the help of his invincible will and the desolate ancient war body, he could even absorb the death chi. For Han Fei, these energies could be swallowed and transformed. As for Xia Xiaochan, she couldn't transform the death energy like Han Fei, but she could fight in the form of a shadow. If Xia Xiaochan wanted to, she could even cross this canyon faster than Han Fei. However, the 2 of them advanced and retreated at the same time. Bam, bam. Han Fei trotted all the way. In the valley, there were explosions almost every second. They were caused by the undead creatures that were sent flying by Han Fei and hit the mountain. While Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were moving forward, on a sea of blood, in front of a bronze gate, there was a large pale red pool that emitted a strange smell. Nearly 270 people were sitting cross-legged here. There were humans, sea demons, mermaids, and Atlanteans. All of them were half-king realms. If one looked closely, they would find that almost all of these people were injured, fierce, and surging. The people in front of this pool were flushed at this moment. Every wisp of smoke overflowing from the pool seemed to invade their bodies, putting them in a relatively special state. And those who could speak at the back were basically the ones who couldn't take a few steps forward on the pool. With them as the center, although they could see the people in the front, they were still in a daze. At this moment, the blood pool was shaking and the earth was roaring. Someone said, "It seems that more people are coming from outside." Someone was speechless. Such a big noise. I'm afraid a lot of people are coming. Are there so many half-king realm powerhouses on this trip to the place where the king died? Someone frowned. After all, this is the place where the king died. It's only natural that there are a few half-king realm powerhouses. Someone said, "Let's wait and see. I wonder if they can come over." From where Han Fei and the others fell to the place where the orange light was, it was only 100 kilometers away. However, this 100 kilometers was not easy to walk. After fighting for more than 50 kilometers, Han Fei sighed. How many venerable realm undead creatures are there? There's no end to it, and there's no benefit even if we win. The old turtle said, "Not necessarily. Once an undying creature awakened its consciousness, it would become an extremely powerful undying creature and might even become a king. Right now, the ones fighting with you haven't awakened their consciousness yet. Your luck is already pretty good. Over the course of millions of years, countless people had fallen. Most of the followers of the Undying Shrine would be able to walk this path. Therefore, this number of people is not considered a lot at all." Xia Shaochan said, "How about I take your place? You take a rest." Han Fei shook his head. It was just the right time to temper the muscles and bones and loosen up the body. Otherwise, if I were to keep dodging, I would have no place to use my physique. How unfortunate would that be? Xia Shaochan snorted. Keep showing off. However, this trial was indeed not weak. It was just that this deathless energy was too annoying. Otherwise, I really want to fight my way over. Han Fei thought for a moment and suddenly patted his head. "Come out. I'll help you get rid of the undead air with the healing technique." "Really?" Swish, when the shadow turned into a human form, an undying creature immediately charged at Xia Shaochan. With a thought from Han Fei, holy light enveloped Xia Shaochan. Chilla, sure enough, the escaping deathless energy was evaporated the moment it touched the holy light. Light and darkness were always opposite in terms of effects. Xia Shaochan was overjoyed to see this. She raised her hand and slashed down, shattering the two skeletons. 1 hour later, when Han Fei and Xia Shaochan came to the yellow building, they both breathed a sigh of relief. Xia Shaochan was also dripping with blood, and Han Fei's battle suit was also tattered. At this moment, the two looked at each other and smiled. Han Fei said, "It's so tiring. Although I'm not fighting against a half-king, there are too many of them. It's too tiring to fight." Xia Shaochan nodded. "I feel that my strength has improved again. I should be able to break through to the half-king level soon." Han Fei's eyelids twitched. "Oh, really? I'm almost there too." With that, the two looked at the arc-shaped building. To be precise, this was not a building. It was built of black stones, covered with large and small grooves. The grooves emitted an orange-red light. In this pitch-black deep-sea domain, it was originally pitch-black, so it was too dazzling. Under this building, there seemed to be a corridor, or rather, a passage. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan moved forward without hesitation until they reached the underground of this building. After a while, the two of them saw a flashing green circular array in front of them. Han Fei immediately said, "This is a teleportation array." Xia Shaochan said in surprise, "It really looks like an adventure." Han Fei nodded slightly. In terms of the danger of the first 3 levels, the dream poison jellyfish is the easiest. When we reach the 1000 silk magic sunflower, peak level venerables shouldn't be able to enter. Even half-king level venerables may die there. In the last canyon, I guess that either the person who came here has special means, is as strong as me, or many people came here together. I'm afraid there are very few people who can fight all the way here like the two of us. Xia Xiaochan nodded. If I fight alone, I can only fight 30 kilometers at most. And this is not considering the immortal aura. If there is immortal aura, I will have to fight all the way. Ordinary half-king level venerables can only fight for 10 kilometers in one breath. Han Fei nodded slightly. Stand there and don't move. Han Fei opened his hands, and the Heavenly Awakening Divine Technique descended. He had to admit that the Heavenly Awakening Divine Technique was really a must-have immortal divine technique. As soon as the holy light shone, not only were his injuries all healed, but even his exhaustion was swept away. Straightening his clothes, Han Fei pulled Xia Xiaochan and said, "Let's go. Let's go and see what the real adventure is." Swished as soon as the teleportation array opened, Han Fei saw a large blood-colored pool. A blood pool? Han Fei couldn't help but be stunned. Why is there a blood pool here? Isn't it supposed to be the undersea palace? Where is the undersea palace? Are you fucking messing with us? Xia Xiaochan was also surprised. Is this the blood pool? Han Fei's face changed slightly and he said, "Yes. Don't touch the pool. Wait a minute." Xia Xiaochan wondered, "Wait for what?" Han Fei said, "Wait for a boat." At this moment, Han Fei's heart was full of questions. What's the relationship between the blood pool on the Forbidden Island and this blood pool here? Most of the secret realms in the land of the fallen king may come from the imperial palace. So, does it mean that the Forbidden Island also comes from the imperial palace? Back then, when my mother and the others left the chaotic Azure Sea, they also took that small island with them? In less than 100 seconds, when Xia Xiaochan saw a small wooden boat floating over the blood pool, Han Fei immediately said, "Let's go." It wasn't until the two of them stood on the wooden boat that Xia Xiaochan said, "Is it very similar to the time you told me?" Han Fei nodded. Not just similar. I want to say, it's almost exactly the same. Han Fei raised his head and looked at the rocks hanging down from the top of the cave. Some places were engraved with murals of a man with a human head and a snake body. In the water, soon, a group of bloody bugs came up and surrounded them. Xia Xiaochan frowned. Bugs? Han Fei said, "Don't touch them. Just attack them with your soul." In Han Fei's eyes, information popped up. Name bloody bugs, introduction, a kind of plankton that feeds on poison and blood. High temperature and high poison can't kill them. Their bodies can resist tens of thousands of degrees of heat, and their poison sacs are even effective on venerable realm creatures. Once the bloody bugs stick to the body, they will turn into a pool of blood and become highly toxic. They will not leave until the absorbed body loses all its energy. Level 79 quality rare contains spiritual energy greater than 7,943 points. Effect inedible collectible blood poison. Remarks, they are a group of creatures. The louder the noise, the easier it is to attract their attention. When Han Fei saw the information of this bloody bug, he couldn't help but take a breath. The bloody bugs he saw on the Forbidden Island were not so strong. On the Forbidden Island, the bloody bugs, there were only law enforcers. But this one was already a peak-level explorer, even half a venerable, which was more than a major realm higher. Han Fei was speechless. Could it be that the secret realm's environment was so different that even the realm gap between these ordinary creatures was so big? Of course, unlike the Forbidden Island, Han Fei found this place by digging it from the ground. But here, he had to pass 3 difficulties. If he understood it from this perspective, it would be easy to explain. Han Fei said, "Next, let's see if there's a bronze gate." Last time, Han Fei took advantage of the bronze gate and found the dragon bones. This time, the situation was basically the same. Then, theoretically speaking, the bronze gate should also exist. Han Fei controlled the infinity water all the way to strangle the bloody bugs. Along the way, the wooden boat moved forward, passing about 2 small islands. When it was far away, Han Fei finally saw a huge bronze gate standing in front of him. Under the bronze gate, beside the blood pool, a group of people were trying to walk to the bronze gate one after another. At this time, Han Fei understood everything. Why didn't these people come out? He thought there would be a fierce battle down there. and he deliberately waited for 2 days before coming down. It turned out that it was the same whether they came down early or late. At this moment he saw a half-king of 100 demons directly raise his spear and throw it at Han Fei and the others. The force was so strong that the ground below Han Fei collapsed. Han Fei's eyes turned cold. He had already used this trick. You want to trick me? Do you have any shame? Third night? Please vote for me. End of this chapter. Chapter 1787. Han Fei grabbed the embroidery needle with both hands, clenched it in the air, and a spear shadow burst out. The terrifying power pierced straight at the blood pool. The spear that the half-king threw was poked into pieces halfway by Han Fei's rod. Seeing that Han Fei was so powerful, the man immediately stood on the road in front of the bronze gate and looked at Han Fei maliciously. However, to his surprise, the power of Han Fei's spear was twisted and annihilated when it approached the shore. Han Fei sneered and then looked at Xia Shaochan. Don't attack the people on that road. Fighting is forbidden here. Otherwise, the power will backfire on you. That person just now wanted to bully us because we've just arrived. Xia Shaochan nodded and then made a gesture to the man, making a throat-slitting gesture. But someone was speechless. What an arrogant newcomer. Which immortal palace are they from? Those who heard this all shook their heads, indicating that they had never seen these two people and didn't know them. However, on this road, several groups of people changed their faces when they saw Han Fei and Xia Shaochan. Among them, Song Kaiyuan and the others couldn't help but smile helplessly. These two are the last people I want to see. They just looted our resources. It's only been a few days. Why are they here again? On the other side, Bingxue Chuling, Han Fei's projection, Chu Yang, and Qin Yu were all there. Besides, they were quite close to the front. Bingxue Chuling was slightly relieved. Han Fei's real body was here. Since she knew that Han Fei was the current immortal master of the Yin-Yang heaven, Bingxue Chuling had inexplicably become dependent on him. In her eyes, no matter how many heavenly talents there were in the other immortal palaces, none of them could become the master of the immortal palace at the venerable realm. However, Han Fei could. A venerable could fight a king-level powerhouse and slaughter a half-king-level powerhouse like crushing a shrimp. When the four of them came here and saw so many half-king-level powerhouses, not to mention Chu Yang and Qin Yu, even Bingxue Chuling's heart was pounding. Fortunately, there was Han Fei's projection. Of course, the projection also had this memory. Therefore, he guided Bingxue Chuling and the others all the way to their current position. The last group of people were Bai Muling and Sidi Yuhong. When they saw Han Fei, they knew that the woman next to him who had completely changed her appearance was their Princess Mingzhu. When Bai Muling saw that someone was trying to attack the princess, she wanted to flip out on the spot. However, Sidi Yuhong transmitted his voice over, "Steady yourself. Could it be that you are looking for a beating?" Bai Muling, standing on the bow of the small wooden boat, Han Fei gently waved his hand, grabbed the blood, and turned it into a knife. He said indifferently, "Who wants to try again? I don't mind sending him to hell." He had seen arrogant people, but he had never seen someone as arrogant as this. Shouldn't a newcomer wonder what kind of place this is? Challenging right from the start? How conceited was this person? However, Han Fei was already in front of him. Trying to intercept them at this time? It would probably be difficult. That was because the majority of people were already on that path and were bearing pressure. At this time, if he wanted to attack Han Fei, he had to leave the trial road first. Then he had to walk again. Therefore, this was not the time to fight. Did he really want to fight? Once this secret realm was broken, he would have a chance to fight. Swish, swished when Han Fei and Xia Shaochan stood on the small island in the middle of the pool, he also put away the small wooden boat. In fact, he still had a lot of small wooden boats in his hand. Many of them were small wooden boats that he had snatched from the other blood pool. There were few small wooden boats here, so they were naturally precious. In fact, these people were also very smart. They knew that it was not easy to come to the center of this blood pool. Without small wooden boats, they couldn't come here. So, as soon as he came here, he put away his ferry. Therefore, Han Fei didn't find an opportunity to destroy and rob other people's ferries. Perhaps a similar situation had already happened to these people before. Because of the last experience, Han Fei thought that maybe the real opportunity was in an independent small world below this blood pool. Today, Han Fei used the navigator for the third time. Han Fei was referring to the location of the opportunity. But the result was that the navigator pointed directly to the bronze gate. Han Fei couldn't help frowning. Do I have to go through this trial to find the treasures? At this moment, Xia Xiaochan was also looking at the T-shaped silk painting on the bronze gate. From the venerable emperor to the 3 divine temples to the world, it was exactly the same as what Han Fei had seen. Xia Xiaochan reminded him, "Look, this road is very unusual." Xia Xiaochan pointed to the road covered with a shallow layer of water and exuding a faint red aura. Han Fei said, "Be careful. After going up, there will be a powerful pressure, which may come from an venerable emperor." An venerable emperor? Xia Xiaochan couldn't help looking at Han Fei. Why is there an venerable emperor? Han Fei said, "The aura of an venerable emperor is reflected on the bronze gate. This road of trial should be conducted with the pressure of a venerable sovereign." Looking at this road, Han Fei felt something was wrong. Previously, when he was on the Forbidden Island, it was the dragon origin chi. Now, the road in front of him was like a long pool, covered with a shallow layer of water. It looked crystal clear, but the aura it exuded was pale red. Before Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan walked in, they couldn't feel what the red mist was. So, Han Fei glanced at Xia Xiaochan and said, "Let's go to the front first." At the moment when Han Fei landed on the island, many people were waiting to see him make a fool of himself. This time, those who could appear here were all demi-kings. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were only at the peak stage of the venerable realm, so they weren't optimistic about their chances. Some people snickered. These 2 people would probably kneel on the ground after taking a few steps. Some people just looked at the 2 of them with sarcasm on their faces. Even the person who attacked Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan just now looked at them with an attitude of watching a show. Han Fei turned a blind eye to these people's gazes and just said to Xia Xiaochan, "This road is about the Taoist heart. How firm your Taoist heart is determines how far you can go." Xia Xiaochan said, "Let's go up first." Han Fei agreed with her. Only after experiencing it would he know how difficult this road was. As soon as their feet touched the ground, they felt a terrifying pressure pressing down on their heads. This was the power of an emperor. Just the pressure of a wisp of the portrait on the door could suppress many demi-kings and make them unable to move. Why do I feel a bit drunk? Although Han Fei's body sank down at once. However, this kind of heaviness was not enough to make it difficult for him to move. What made Han Fei particularly concerned was that the opportunities here should have nothing to do with the dragon origin chi. For some reason, there was a fragrance of wine wafting here. Xia Xiaochan's situation was similar to Han Fei's. She was inexplicably pleasantly surprised. "This pressure can help me make a breakthrough." Han Fei said, "You still have to go to the front. This road is 3,000 meters long. I'm afraid you have to walk 2,000 meters to achieve the effect of helping you make a breakthrough." Although Han Fei said 2,000 meters, he saw the person in the front. It was Wu Hao of the chaotic heavens who had a deal with Han Fei. Not far behind him, about 5 or 6 meters away, Han Fei saw Beiteng Xian of the Wuji heavens standing there, motionless. Wu Hao's position was about 1,800 meters. Creaked just as Han Fei and the others stepped onto this road. Wu Hao raised his foot and took a step forward with difficulty. In fact, Wu Hao was not walking alone. Almost at every moment, there were people moving forward. They were just moving slowly. At this speed, even if Han Fei waited outside for another 5 or 6 days, there might not be much noise here. Han Fei glanced around. His clone and Bingxue Chuling were about 1,300 meters away. Bai Muling and Sidiu Hong were about 1,700 meters away, not much behind Wu Hao and the others. Song Kaiyuan and the others were about 1,500 meters away on average. Among these people, only Jian Hui was in the same position as Beiteng Xian. Han Fei was not familiar with the others. It was just that those who participated in the Battle of the Heavenly Fault Ancient Tree on that day basically walked more than 1,500 meters. For example, Bingxue Chuling and the others should have come late. This could be judged by the frequency of their movements. Basically, for every step Wu Hao took, Bingxue Chuling could take 3 steps. Of course, Han Fei had already seen the difficulty of this trial, so he was already mentally prepared. Under the gazes of many people, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan began to walk. The two seemed to have entered an uninhabited land, walking on the road. On average, they took 7 or 8 steps in every second. Wow, someone exclaimed, how is it possible? Even if they are at the back, aren't these 2 people too fast? Someone was dumbfounded. These are just 2 peak-level venerables. Whose heavenly talent are they? How can they be so strong? Someone sighed. It seems that they are the top heavenly talents of the 36 mysterious heavens. Otherwise, they wouldn't have walked so easily as if they were taking a stroll. Under the surprised gazes of many people, after 100 seconds, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan walked almost 400 meters, and their speed didn't slow down. After 200 seconds, the two almost kept pace and walked 800 meters, and their speed still didn't slow down. On the way, Han Fei reminded her, "Girl, after crossing a kilometer, the pressure must be 2 levels. At that time, you can feel it first." After another 50 seconds, when Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan crossed a distance of 1,000 meters, almost all the eyes of the audience fell on them. Even Wu Hao, who was at the forefront, couldn't help but be shocked. These 2 people are so fast. His speed was actually much faster than his previous speed. Beideng Xian frowned slightly, wondering, where did these 2 strong masters come from? Are there such 2 people in the 36 mysterious heavens? Chapter 1788. As soon as they crossed the distance of a kilometer, both Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan felt that the pressure on them suddenly doubled. This doubling was enough to make it difficult for many people to move an inch. Even Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan could take 7 or 8 steps in one breath. Now, they could only take 1 or 2 steps in one breath. However, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan's speed was already beyond the reach of ordinary people. It only took them about 500 minutes to catch up with Bingxue Chuling and the others. Bingxue Chuling was also speechless. Is this road really so simple? Although she could also walk step by step, and she even felt that as long as she took it slow, she would definitely cross the 1,500-meter barrier in half a day. At this time tomorrow, she might be able to cross the 1,700-meter barrier. However, after seeing Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan's speed, Bingxue Chuling couldn't help but doubt herself. Was she really a top heavenly talent? People kept saying that she was a heavenly talent, and one day she would believe it. But in fact, there was always someone better than her. Heavenly talents were always relative. About 2 hours later, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan crossed the 1,500-meter barrier. At this time, the pressure on them increased again. This time, Xia Xiaochan's face was slightly red, and her breathing was slightly not so smooth. After all, Xia Xiaochan's real realm was only at the peak level of the Venerable Realm. It was already very rare for her to come this far. This was a distance that many half-king realm powerhouses couldn't reach. Han Fei felt the pressure increase again, and there was even a strong smell of alcohol in the air. Even he felt a little dizzy. Han Fei thought, is it possible that the treasure this time is not the dragon essence but wine? Since when can wine be a treasure? Moreover, it attracted so many super experts to flock to it like ducks? Xia Xiaochan said, "Go ahead by yourself. I feel that I need some time to adapt. The pressure here is just right, and the smell of wine also contains magnificent energy. Maybe I can make a breakthrough with this." Han Fei asked, "Do you want to stay where you are? Or do you want to continue moving forward and consider the breakthrough?" Xia Xiaochan nodded. "I'll take my time. My bloodline is slightly vibrating. It's no good for me to continue moving forward." Han Fei nodded slightly. "In that case, I'll wait for you." Xia Xiaochan said, "No, you keep going. Otherwise, what if the treasure is taken by the people in front of us?" Xia Xiaochan then said, "Don't worry. There are many mermaids here. If something really happens, all the mermaids will come to help. If you take the treasure and have the navigator, it'll be easy for you to find me." Hearing this, Han Fei thought to himself, that makes sense. After all, Xia Shaochan had a special identity. If they really made it public, who in the entire merfolk race would dare to slight them? Thinking about this, Han Fei said, "Then I'll go first. If I disappear for no reason, don't panic. It's possible that I've found a place where the treasure is hidden." Okay, with that, Han Fei continued to walk forward. In this place, among all the forces and all the heavenly talents, Han Fei's strength, bloodline level, and life level were much higher than theirs. Besides, since Han Fei had made up his mind, he wasn't afraid of the Emperor's power at all. Wasn't this? Just when everyone was slightly relieved to see that Xia Shaochan stopped, Han Fei moved again. Although it took him a few seconds to take each step, his speed was still extremely fast. They felt that Han Fei's blood was soaring, and his speed was slowly accelerating again. 2 hours later. At this moment, Wu Hao had already walked a distance of 1,800 meters. Jian Hui of the Sword God Palace and Beidang Xian of the Wuji Heaven followed closely behind. After that, the position had completely changed. Behind Jian Hui, Han Fei had already stepped forward. There was only a distance of 2 or 3 meters between the two. Was it because of Han Fei's provocation? A strong master of the Grand Purity Palace also began to accelerate and began to catch up. It was reasonable to say that those who could reach this position were at least as strong as Ji Qin. However, this disciple of the Grand Purity Palace came here, which showed that his potential was no less than Ji Qin's. Jian Hui didn't notice Han Fei's existence, but Beitang Xian turned his head with difficulty and glanced at Han Fei. "Who are you?" Han Fei ignored Beitang Xian. "What's wrong with my head? Why should I tell you who I am?" Seeing that he was ignored, Beitang Xian couldn't help narrowing his eyes. It was the first time that he had been ignored. He guessed that even if this person didn't say who he was, it at least meant that this person must be a top master hidden in a certain palace. However, Beitang Xian didn't panic at all. Without fame, it was not easy to be in the limelight. Fame was earned through fighting. This person didn't know how many people's attention he had attracted. After they could get out of this place, they felt that if Han Fei didn't have help, he wouldn't live long. After a while, Han Fei surpassed Jian Hui and Beitang Xian. Half an hour later, Han Fei and Wu Hao were tied. Wu Hao's first place had already been taken. Wu Hao's face was cold, and he was standing still, looking at the bronze gate quietly. Han Fei knew that he was accumulating power. After standing here, Han Fei stood side by side with Wu Hao for a while, and then looked up at the bronze gate. When Han Fei looked at the figure in the shape of an emperor on the bronze gate again, he was still a little shocked. If he stared at him intently, that person seemed to have a magical power. The more he looked at him, the heavier the pressure he felt. Han Fei shifted his attention and couldn't help but say to Wu Hao, "You've been standing here for a long time, but you haven't taken a few steps. You have to work harder. If you really can't take it, breathe in more of the smell of alcohol." Han Fei didn't dislike Wu Hao. The Chaos Heavens could stand tall among the 13 inner heavens without colluding with the other immortal palaces. At least, it gave Han Fei a good feeling. The smell of alcohol that Han Fei was referring to was the shallow layer of water under his feet. The water was filled with a strong smell of alcohol, causing Han Fei to feel a little tipsy after inhaling it. Han Fei really wondered if that group of people had robbed the Imperial Palace's wine cellar back then. The so-called treasure was their wine cellar or something. Wu Hao still closed his eyes and ignored Han Fei. Just as Han Fei rested and was about to continue forward, he heard Wu Hao's voice transmission. "The gate is about to open. Don't move." Han Fei was taken aback. "This gate can be opened?" Wu Hao replied, "Once a day." Han Fei immediately stood still and said to Xia Shaochan via voice transmission, "Pay attention to this bronze gate. It says that it can open once a day." The big guy next to me said not to break through nearby. Xia Shaochan was slightly taken aback and immediately replied, "Okay." Han Fei thought for a moment. "Anyway, I'm now tied with Wu Hao for first place. What does this bronze gate look like?" "I'm not sure." Since the gate says that it will open, I'll wait. Before the bronze gate opened, Han Fei was already inhaling the smell of alcohol. This strong smell of alcohol contained a great amount of energy. It was different from the dragon essence qi that he had obtained in the past. This energy was used to temper his body and cultivate. Moreover, when Han Fei secretly activated the pure mystic body, he could actually trigger the cultivation of the pure mystic body. This meant that the energy was extremely pure. It was said that alcohol was better than food. Although Han Fei didn't like it, he knew that if he cultivated here, in less than half a year, not only would his strength recover to the half-king realm, but it might even climb to the limit of the half-king realm. After about half an hour, when Han Fei was inhaling the smell of alcohol, suddenly there was a cracking sound. The bronze gate slowly opened from the outside to the inside, leaving a small gap between the two. Han Fei's eyes widened. He didn't know if it was because he inhaled too much alcohol or if his eyes were dazzled. When he tried to open his eyes and looked through the crack of the gate, he only saw a blur in front of him. Not a single place was clearly visible. Logically speaking, this was impossible for a strong master like Han Fei. When the bronze door was about a foot wide open, a red, misty brilliance rushed out from the door. Han Fei and Wu Hao were the first to bear the brunt. When this energy rushed over, Han Fei felt that the energy in his body was instantly filled. An inexplicable force was slowly transforming his body. Unfortunately, compared with the resources and cultivation speed he had, this was only equivalent to a small windfall. It would probably save him 2 months of cultivation in Forge the Universe. When this energy rushed over, in addition to Han Fei's body, Han Fei felt that the demon purification pot was also swallowing. A large amount of energy poured into Han Fei's wrist, but it didn't enter his body. It must have gone into the demon purification pot. Han Fei heard the old turtle roaring, "Hurry up, hurry up. This is not an ordinary power. This is the pure power of the Great Way. It has the original form of spiritual energy, and also the most fundamental form. This venerable emperor is preaching?" Han Fei was woken up by the old turtle and immediately swallowed this power of the Great Way with all his strength. Even the old turtle himself was swallowing the power of the Great Way crazily in Han Fei's body. This lasted for only about 10 breaths. While everyone was still immersed in the impact of this force, the bronze door slowly closed. But in the blink of an eye, it returned to the previous closed state. The old turtle said, "What a pity, it's a pity that the time is too short. If I had such an opportunity back then, maybe I would have been stronger when I was in the venerable realm. Maybe I could have even broken through to the heaven-opening realm." Han Fei was speechless. "Are you kidding me?" The old turtle nodded. "Of course. It's extremely rare for a venerable emperor to preach. I've only heard of God's preaching, but I've never heard of a venerable emperor preaching." Han Fei asked, "Wait, what do you mean by preaching? What preaching?" The old turtle said, "It's when a god preaches and elaborates on the Great Way. If you can be influenced often, you can tap your potential and even improve your bloodline level. Unfortunately, the time is too short. You only absorbed a small amount of the power of the Great Way. You can try to disassemble the spiritual energy with this power of the Great Way. Maybe it will be of great help." Chapter 1789. Hearing the old turtle's words, Han Fei asked in confusion, "Do I dismantle it here?" The old turtle said, "Well, if you dismantle the spiritual energy here, then other people may learn from you. You don't want to do that, do you?" Han Fei thought to himself, "Isn't that obvious? Do you think I'm so generous if half of the people here are hostile forces? Do you think other people don't know how to use this energy?" The old turtle said, "If they have heard the preaching of the gods, then they will definitely use it. But do you think they have heard of it?" Han Fei thought, "Of course. How can there be gods in the 36 heavens?" Han Fei said, "According to Wu Hao, this gate should open every other day. In this case, I'll walk forward, cross 2,000 meters, and keep a distance. The people behind me can't see clearly what I'm doing." While others were feeling the pleasure brought by the Great Way, Han Fei took 3 steps forward in a row. Many people looked at Han Fei in surprise. The power of the Great Way is so pure. Why are you rushing forward instead of feeling it carefully? Wu Hao was also slightly surprised. This person's resistance was rare in the world. Under this terrifying pressure, it was impossible for him to survive without the strength of his body and soul. Now, Wu Hao saw Han Fei stride forward continuously in one breath. What did this mean? This meant that this person's physique was much stronger than his. Wu Hao couldn't help but look back at Saint Child Shuizhan, thinking that he was behind. And this person seemed to be a heavenly talent. While walking, Han Fei said, "Girl, don't use the power of the Great Way in your body. It can be used to dismantle spiritual energy. You can secretly stuff it into Master Hexagon's body, but don't let it eat it. Don't try to dismantle it first, in case others see it." After hearing this, Xia Xiaochan's eyes immediately lit up and she nodded. How did Han Fei know these secrets? She thought that this pure power of the Great Way was only used to improve her physique and serve as a kind of cultivation energy. It turned out that this power could be used to dismantle spiritual energy. At this time, Han Fei continued to walk forward. To be honest, Han Fei was ecstatic. His method of dismantling spiritual energy was still a little short of 90%. If he could make another breakthrough now, as long as he could increase it by 1 or 2%, it would be a great thing. Han Fei moved forward, and when he tried to walk less than 30 meters, a spiritual energy vortex suddenly formed behind him. Countless supreme-grade spirit stones were spinning in the air, surging with energy. Someone had actually broken through the cultivation barrier in this realm. Right after this person, another woman beside her broke through the barrier. Han Fei recalled that these two women seemed to be twin sisters. In the heavenly imperial court battle, they had also appeared. I think they were called Gu Yuin and Gu Yul. As soon as he heard the name, he knew that it was from Brahma Sound Sky. At this moment, someone cupped his hands. Sister Gu Yu, congratulations to the two of you for making another breakthrough in the great Tao of music. Someone asked curiously, Sister Gu Yu, can this energy help music breakthrough? Gu Yuin responded to everyone, this power is more in line with our Brahma Sound Heaven's rhythm cultivation method. I didn't expect you to have a breakthrough. Listening to Gu Yuin's meaning, he was able to break through because his great Tao was compatible. As for the specific reason, they did not know. However, the curious people were all heavenly talents, and they were also thinking, even if he wanted to make a breakthrough, he didn't have to make continuous breakthroughs, right? Han Fei thought to himself, most likely, one of these two people has found part of the use of this pure power of the great Tao. So, he made a breakthrough at this moment. But Han Fei was not in a hurry. There was still a long way to go before the next gate opened. He had plenty of time. He'd better cross 2,000 meters first. With the motivation to cultivate, Han Fei braced himself to move forward. It only took him less than 2 hours to reach the 2,000-meter barrier. At this moment, not only Wu Hao was watching Han Fei, but also Beiding Xian of the Wuji Heaven, Xia Hai of the Golden Crow Heaven, Song Hongyu of the Dragon Subduing Heaven, Song Kaiyuan of the Taishan Heaven, Li Kaitian of the Boundless Heaven, Jian Hui of the Sword God Palace, Lu Ran of the Glass Heaven, Bai Muling of the Mermaid Clan, and Sidi Yuhong. These people also wanted to know what was going on 2,000 meters away. Among them, Bai Muling and Sidi Yuhong had crossed the 1,800-meter line. The two looked at each other. Bai Muling said, "Guess what will happen to him later?" Sidi Yuhong nodded. "I don't think he'll do anything. Have you forgotten how strong he was when he showed his strength? It's just a mere 2,000 meters, I feel like we can reach it, let alone this guy." Bai Muling shrugged helplessly. "You're right. But Her Highness seems to be using the pressure to hone herself and want to make a breakthrough here." Sidi Yuhong nodded. "It's okay to make a breakthrough here. On this road, we can't attack each other. Her Highness has a lot of resources and is protected by the hexagon starfish. No matter what, it's not their turn to attack her." Under everyone's expectant gaze, Han Fei took a deep breath and took a step forward. After this step, Han Fei's body suddenly sank a little. Han Fei's waist and shoulders were slightly bent. Around Han Fei, the pale red mist exploded in an instant. and his qi and blood appeared outside his body. At that moment, the invincible will appeared, condensed into a golden giant, and then attached to Han Fei's body. Behind him, many people sighed. Wu Hao was the first to be shocked. He was so surprised that he almost lost his voice. This is the Invincible Road? Although many people had never seen the Road of Invincibility, they knew some legends about the Road of Invincibility from various historical records. Or rather, it was not a legend. Wu Hao knew that in the Chaos Heavens, wasn't his uncle master taking the same path? In the Wuji Heaven, it was said that someone had also taken this road. However, the Invincible Road was an extremely rare road. As far as Wu Hao knew, in the entire chaotic Azure Sea, there were only 3 people in the 36 profound heavens. He had never heard of the 100 demons, the sea humans, and the merfolk. Finally, someone exclaimed, "It's the Invincible Road." Who is he? Beitang Xian narrowed his eyes. In the 36 profound heavens, only Grand Purity Palaces Wu Duosho, Chaos Heavens Qinfenghua, and Wuji Heavens Li Xinghan have taken the Invincible Road. Beitang Xian narrowed his eyes. First of all, this is definitely not Li Xinghan. This senior brother is in seclusion, and his strength is infinitely close to that of a king. He is one of the experts most likely to become a king in the Wuji Heaven. It's even more impossible for him to be Chaos Heavens Qinfenghua. This person is a king to begin with. Due to his existence, the Grand Purity Palace and Wuji Heaven Palace had protected their 2 strongest experts of the Invincible Road very well. After all, only one person would be left of the Invincible Road. Beitang Xian shook his head slightly. This person is not from the Grand Purity Palace either. The people from the Grand Purity Palace had always been aloof. Furthermore, he had met them once, and they were definitely not like this. Therefore, Beitang Xian felt that perhaps the 36 profound heavens had produced another expert who had taken the Invincible Road. Bai Muling and Sita Yuhong exchanged looks once again. Bai Muling said, "From the looks of it, we still underestimated him. No one who can take this path is simple. They are all people who will die if they don't become king. However, there are a few in the 36 profound heavens who have taken the Invincible Road. He probably won't have an easy time in the future, right?" Situ Yuhong said, "But this fellow doesn't seem to have taken the Invincible Road. The Invincible Road allows him to withstand a king's strike with one hand? You don't say. Although I don't like this punk, your highness sure has a keen eye when it comes to picking people." Bai Muling said, "Bullshit. Don't you know what this fatty looks like? Is he more handsome than us?" Situ Yuhong said, "I'm talking about his strength." Xia Shaochan smiled. She had always been full of confidence in Han Fei. Even when he faced Chun Huangdian, Han Fei survived. Now, she didn't believe that there was anything that could stump Han Fei. And Bingxue Qiliang, looking at the clone next to her, also felt helpless. That's not Han Fei's full strength. Han Fei still has a clone here. At this moment, Han Fei didn't feel very good either. It was mainly because the pressure was too strong, and the invisible pressure was too heavy. He felt like he was walking on a jade bridge. But fortunately, it wasn't as exaggerated as last time on the Forbidden Island, where his bones were broken and his whole body was bleeding. It must be because he was too weak at that time. Now, Han Fei didn't intend to force his way forward with the power of the Great Path. After all, the power of the Great Path could only last for a limited time. If he went forward now, it would be too dangerous if he couldn't resist it. Therefore, it was the right way to move forward step by step with his own strength. Of course, Han Fei knew that he didn't have all his strength right now. Han Fei said to Bingxue Qiliang telepathically, "I'll take back the power of the clone for now." Bingxue Qiliang responded in surprise. "So many people," Han Fei said, "It's okay. I won't let others suspect me." Just as everyone fixed their eyes on Han Fei, they saw Xuezhan, the holy child of the snow god's temple, was suddenly wrapped by an ice lotus. Immediately, someone said in surprise, "The ice lotus of the snow god's temple? Isn't that Bingxue Qiliang's sea-quelling bizarre treasure? Why is it in Xuezhan's hands?" The ice lotus began to close. In the blink of an eye, it turned into an ice lotus bud. Since then, no one could perceive Shuizhan's situation. But most people thought that the wave of energy of the Great Path just now must have triggered Shuizhan and forced him to cultivate immediately. Xia Xiaochan was puzzled, thinking that Han Fei must have taken back the power of the clone. Since Han Fei was about to take back the power of his doppelganger, then after 2,000 meters, it was definitely not something that ordinary people could withstand. Phew, when everyone focused their attention on Shuizhan again, Han Fei, who was ahead, heaved a sigh of relief. It felt so good to have his power back. The strength of a half-monarch realm clone was indeed formidable. Even in Han Fei's current state, he could only project no more than 5 half-king clones. If one wanted to project an even stronger demi-monarch to the level of a genius, then one could only project 3 demi-monarchs. Now that part of the power had returned, Han Fei took a breath and continued to move forward. Chapter 1790. Han Fei took it for granted that he was ahead of everyone else. After all, as Bingxue Chuling said, he was the current immortal master of the Yin-Yang heaven. He had the same status as the kings of the 36 Shen-Tian heavens. If he couldn't even pass such a trial, how could he be the 9th immortal master? When the projection returned, it took Han Fei 6 hours to walk another 300 meters forward. At this moment, Wu Hao was less than 2,000 meters away. Han Fei sat cross-legged. As soon as Han Fei sat down, many people thought that Han Fei had reached his limit. But only Han Fei himself knew that he couldn't see everything from the back to the front. The power of the soul was useless here. Therefore, he didn't know what he was doing at all. So, after talking to the old turtle, Han Fei directly mobilized the power of the Tao in his body and began to disassemble spiritual energy. He thought that disassembling spiritual energy was a very troublesome thing. At least, when Han Fei used the power of hope to disassemble spiritual energy, it would take him several months to make a 1% breakthrough. Besides, after accumulating a large amount of power of hope, he could only improve by 40% or 50% before the power of hope was used up. However, when Han Fei wanted to mobilize the pure power of the Tao to disassemble spiritual energy, he was surprised to find that this was the opposite process of disassembling spiritual energy. Han Fei saw spiritual power gathering, wisps of it like mist. When the first wisp of spiritual energy intertwined with the power of the Tao, Han Fei vaguely saw a vortex. Fuse. At this critical moment, Han Fei had to fuse. When the yin-yang divine eyes appeared, Han Fei saw the extremely subtle vortex. However, the evolution process just now had passed. Han Fei immediately pinched the wisp of spiritual energy in his hand. The next moment, Han Fei mobilized thousands of wisps of the power of the Tao to compose spiritual energy and disassemble it in reverse. As soon as he started, thousands of vortexes appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Especially when the power of the Tao wanted to combine with spiritual energy, the vortex generated gathered the power of his own power of the Tao and spiritual energy, turning the spiritual energy into his own. Han Fei was lost in thought. Before, he disassembled spiritual energy from the outside world. This time, he wanted to reshape the spiritual energy from the source. Just when Han Fei wanted to continue watching how the power of Tao was reshaped into a perfect bit of spiritual energy, he suddenly discovered that the power of Tao in his body had been exhausted. Canceling the fusion, Han Fei immediately asked, "Old Yuan, how long have I been cultivating?" The old turtle, "You? About 10 breaths." Han Fei, "So short?" Han Fei couldn't help but feel it. When he found that the spiritual energy disassembly rate jumped to 96%, he couldn't help but gasp. Damn it. Are you kidding me? Fuck. Han Fei was completely stunned. He had only cultivated for a minute or so, and he had already reached 96%? Since when did disassembling spiritual energy become so easy? Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, how old is the old turtle? 95% originally, Han Fei thought that it would be not bad if his spiritual energy could be disassembled to 95% by the time he returned to the Yin-Yang heaven. Who would have thought that in front of this bronze gate he would directly surpass the old turtle in terms of spiritual energy disassembly rate? The old turtle was also shocked and immediately said excitedly, This is really worthy of the preaching of an emperor. I have never had the chance to see it before. I never expected that I would have such a fortuitous encounter today. Han Fei, just wait here for him to continue preaching. If it can be opened once a day, then this gate should be able to be opened 9 times. Unexpectedly, the old turtle also became excited when he saw Han Fei's situation. If he could deeply understand the secret of disassembling spiritual energy, he would definitely be stronger when he became a king in the future. Seeing the old turtle so excited, Han Fei immediately said to Xia Shaochan via voice transmission, Girl, don't let the big starfish devour the power of Tao you absorbed. Or, you can show your identity. Xia Shaochan looked in Han Fei's direction in surprise and responded in surprise, Won't everyone know me if I show my identity? Han Fei nodded. It doesn't matter. After all, our identity is full of doubts. Besides, even if others know, so what? I can still go out as Saint Child Xuezhan. Xia Shaochan knew that if Han Fei could sneak in, he must have a way to sneak out. At least for now, except for Bingxue Chuling, no one knew that he and Saint Child Xuezhan were the same person. In this way, Xia Shaochan knew what to do. I see. Although he knew that the bronze gate would open again, Han Fei still walked forward. Han Fei knew that with every step forward he could absorb more of the power of Tao. He didn't know it before. Now that he knew, Han Fei didn't mind letting the old turtle have a share of the loot. He even wanted Nian, and Seed to have a share of the loot. However, the power of the Great Path wasn't something that just anyone could withstand, regardless of their cultivation level. Therefore, although Han Fei wanted to, he couldn't. In the end, when Han Fei walked to 2,400 meters, he felt the pressure on his body was too heavy again. He needed to rest here for a while. Behind Han Fei, Wu Hao, who had been preparing for several hours, had already reached the 2,000-meter mark. There were some other heavenly talents with him. However, Wu Hao looked at this hurdle for a long time and didn't immediately make a decision. But Song Hongyu of the dragon-taming heaven couldn't wait any longer. The aura in his body surged, and there seemed to be an azure dragon roaring in his body. Bam! When Song Hongyu crossed the 2,000-meter barrier, he fell to his knees with a thud. He tried to support himself on the ground with his hands and couldn't even raise his head. Ho chi! To sizzle. Song Hongyu struggled to get up with great effort. However, everyone only saw that the battle suit on his body was slightly torn, blood was flowing out of his body, and there were traces of cracks on his body. Hiss! Seeing this scene, almost everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Is this 2,000-meter hurdle really that terrifying? No one thought that Song Hongyu couldn't make it. Those who really knew Song Hongyu knew that this person's fighting style was extremely domineering. He could kill an azure dragon and a group of enemies, and his physique was also extraordinary. Among the heavenly talents of the 36 Black Heavens, he was really famous. But now, it was only one step away, but Song Hongyu found it so difficult. How could the others not be horrified? When Song Hongyu tried to adjust his posture and wanted to sit cross-legged, no one saw the corners of his mouth curl up slightly. Didn't you know how heavy this pressure was until you came here? Didn't you know how good this was? Everyone's eyes moved from Song Hongyu to Han Fei. Even Song Hongyu was kneeling here, but the guy in front of him actually walked 2,400 meters? Although he was also sitting cross-legged, he looked much better than Song Hongyu now. Someone couldn't help but ask, does anyone know who that is? However, no one answered this question because no one knew him at all. Wu Hao made a judgment in his heart when he saw Song Hongyu's situation, but he still didn't leave. He was waiting for the power of the Great Path to help him completely refine the golden body. Because he found that this Great Path was actually similar to the description that Xuezhan gave him. This attempt was very beneficial, and there was hope for him to refine the golden body. Then, Li Kaitian of the boundless heaven crossed the 2,000-meter barrier. His whole body almost squatted into a horse stance, but he still managed to hold on. Beitang Xian of the Wuji heaven also rushed over. Although he was not as embarrassed as Song Hongyu, he was not far from it. If he hadn't supported himself with his hands, he would have knelt on the ground in minutes. Then, by Muling and Sidiyu of the Merman clan, a shark and a crab of the 100 Demons clan, and several experts of the sea humans all crossed the 2,000-meter barrier. As a result, they basically all sat at the 2,000-meter line. Even if some people could go further, they didn't want to move. As long as the power of the Great Path came again, they could continue to improve their physiques and promote their cultivation. When all the people who should cross the 2,000-meter barrier had crossed it, there were only 4 hours left before the bronze gate opened again. And at this time, a starfish appeared on the ground beside Xia Xiaochan. As soon as the hexagon starfish came out, it immediately yelled wildly, "I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. It's too horrible. I can't stand this pain." Almost in an instant, all the experts of the Merman clan present looked at Xia Xiaochan. Someone exclaimed, "It's the hexagon starfish. This is Her Highness." Oh my God. I always thought that Her Highness didn't come. It turns out that she has another identity. Someone was surprised. Everyone, pay attention. Try to get closer to Her Highness. And Xia Xiaochan glanced at the hexagon starfish angrily. "If you keep yelling, I'll cook you." The hexagon starfish's 6 big eyes were twisting. "I really can't bear it." Xia Xiaochan said, "If you can't bear it, just stay here. Wait for the bronze gate to open and absorb the power of the Great Path. If you dare to embezzle it, I won't joke with you. I will take away all your treasures, not a single drop left." The hexagon starfish was dumbfounded. His 6 big eyes froze and he immediately said, "Impossible, starfish don't steal things. I didn't touch a single drop of that power. Yes, I didn't touch a single drop." Xia Xiaochan said, "I'm not joking with you. These powers are very important. I won't use them and neither will you. Let's save them first. After we go out, Han Fei will use them." The hexagon starfish said, "I know, but the pressure is so great. I really can't crawl forward anymore. It's too tiring." Xia Xiaochan smiled slightly. "It's okay if you don't go forward. Look around, there are half-kings everywhere. There are human forces, demon forces, and human forces at the bottom of the sea. In case of an accident, don't blame me for not being able to save you." The hexagon starfish's big eyes rolled. "I can't be in danger, can I? There are so many mermen." Xia Xiaochan said, "If I'm really in danger, they will definitely save me. You're not by my side. How can they not save me but you?" The hexagon starfish. After thinking for a while, the hexagon starfish said, "I think I can still take 2 steps forward. Although I'm very tired, I have a raise." First update, asking for votes. End of this chapter. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.